In this world, the title of raider isn't just a name. It's the most noble status earned with blood and glory. They are the hunters of dark creatures. Along with that, they scavenge for treasure, but their most important role is protecting everyone. It's a dangerous job, yet they are hailed as heroes and are the center of all admiration. It's a profession that inspires others. That is what it means to be a raider. Sounds noble, doesn't it? But you know what? The moment that makes a raider's heart beat the fastest is when they get a single taste of that extreme rush of adrenaline right on the edge of life and death. That experience is etched into their minds, forever impossible to forget. Back to reality. Everything was moving along quietly in a roadside cafe, but the next second, Chae-hun let out a furious scream that startled everyone around him. "You insane bastard! You're asking me to be a meat shield." Gyumin saw him making a scene and hurriedly tried to soothe him. "No, brother, don't get it wrong. Besides, you said you needed money fast." Regardless of his excuses at this moment, Chae-hun just regretted he couldn't beat the living daylights out of this guy. Damn it, I should have realized it was suspicious when they asked me to go on a dungeon raid. This bastard is Gyumin. I works for the raider branch, acting as a headhunter for raiders who, like me, don't have a guild. So when he contacted me, I knew I'd have my first job in a long time. But after hearing the request, he wanted me to go to the front line as a shield in a dungeon full of immortal monsters. Simply put, he wanted me to be a meat shield in a dangerous situation. Thinking about this, he laughed bitterly and spoke up. "Why is this the only job available? Those lower-ranked brats than me aren't having this much trouble finding work." Gyumin didn't explain, just vaguely replied, "You know why you have so few options. For the warrior class, even for high-level raiders." Chae-hun angrily interrupted, "So you're looking down on me because I'm just a mediocre martial artist?" He could no longer hide his harmless, benevolent mask and shamelessly admitted, "Sorry for my uselessness, but the truth is..." "That's right. Nowadays, mages own the stage. Warriors are relatively slow at handling situations and have higher injury rates, so they aren't the first choice for clients." A bitter truth. Compared to mages who can safely eliminate monsters from a distance, warriors at the front can only take on a lot of damage. Not to mention the fact that in large-scale battles, mages have a huge advantage, and Chae-hun thought the same thing. I know all of this. It's different from 15 years ago. There's no longer a place for warrior-class raiders here. He felt a pang of regret for making this difficult choice. Damn it, I should have chosen magic back then. Flashback to 11 years ago when Chae-hun was still wearing his third-year middle school uniform. I scored extremely high on the Awakening Aptitude test, so I was accepted into the Mira Academy, an educational institution specializing in training raiders. My magical potential back then was 97. The top mage right now only reaches 92, so my score back then was considered out of this world. On the other hand, I only had a potential of 34 for melee combat. But after everything, I chose melee. I don't really have a grand reason or anything like that. It's just that back then the reputation of mages was terrible. They were used like booster machines because they couldn't take down a low-level monster on their own without a warrior. But now warriors are dismissed while mages are revered. If 11 years ago I had chosen to become a mage, would my life be better right now? Usually a raider's growth stops at age 20. Regretting it now is useless, while lost in memory. Gyumin suddenly urged him, "There aren't many opportunities like this. I was planning to find someone else, but I thought of you first because I remembered your situation." Chae-hun couldn't make a choice yet, only bitterly clenched his fists before officially facing this cruel reality. "I have talent, the kind that was once envied by those who chose magic, but now I'm just a low-tier D-rank warrior. My life has taken a turn for the worse." With nowhere left to retreat, he finally made up his mind. "Fine, I'll take it." Hearing this answer, Gyumin didn't quite catch it at first, giving Chae-hun time to calm down. "From the beginning, I had no choice if I wanted to survive in this society. A person can't be too picky about the kind of work they take." Only a few minutes later, seeing no further reaction from him, he cheered happily. "You made the right decision, brother. I'll send you the address. See you there at 8 tomorrow morning, and don't be late." After discussing, Chae-hun stood up abruptly to leave, grumbling a few things beforehand. "Why do you have to meet me there? The branch office is busy enough as it is. Don't worry about it, just focus on your business." But Gyumin replied excitedly, "No, I have things to do there tomorrow. See you tomorrow." The next day, the hired mages and warriors had gathered in full at the dungeon entrance. Chae-hun arrived early. He stood in a corner quietly studying the formation. But almost an hour later, there was still no sign of Jumin. Chi-hun cursed silently. Jumin, that bastard. He said he'd meet me here, but there's no trace of him. He just left a message saying he wouldn't come. The truth is, Jumin deserved to work with a more talented raider. He slowly cast his gaze to observe the warriors present and couldn't help but compare. I'm just a D-rank warrior class raider while Jumin is an A-rank mage. I can't understand why someone like that works at a branch office. He has the capability to join any guild he wants. To think I'd waste my time in a place like this. If it were me, that thought had barely flashed through his mind before that terrifying nightmare surged up again, constricting his chest so tightly that Se-hun couldn't even breathe, let alone speak. That vicious, biting remark remained like a branding iron burned deep into the mind of this good-for-nothing, acting like invisible shackles crushing what little courage Se-hun had left in the face of this cruel reality. Are you lost in a daydream waiting for someone to call your name and pull you back to reality? Se-hun, we meet again. Realizing who it was, he gave a faint smile and replied, You're here too. Myung-ho? Myung-ho scratched his head, looking troubled. There hasn't been much work lately. Jobs like this can be dangerous. But they pay really well, and even Myung-ho came here for that reason. Se-hun could only respond helplessly, You're right, especially once he understood the intent behind those words. Myung-ho reacted immediately. When a warrior has nowhere else to go, right? Kids these days have no love for the sword. What's so cool about throwing magic orbs from a distance? The moment those words were spoken, Se-hun's face darkened. He didn't deny it. He just felt a bitter pang in his heart. Love, damn it. I'm about to starve to death here. Myung-ho nudged his shoulder and called out, Hey, let's give it our all this time too. And after this, let's go get some soju, what do you say? Se-hun agreed on impulse but hesitated. Yeah, that sounds good. But I'm running low on cash lately. Hearing about money, Myung-ho immediately backed off. Not happening, I paid last time. He felt awkward since Myung-ho always ended up covering the tab. But with his empty wallet, Se-hun didn't know what else to do but brazenly wait. Myung-ho squinted with one eye waiting, but after a while he saw Se-hun wasn't making a move. Myung-ho finally gave in. Fine, I'll pay this one last time. Hearing that, Se-hun beamed. I'm really sorry I keep relying on you. Yet deep down, he silently judged the other man for being such a pushover. Just a second later, the guide shouted, calling everyone to gather before the dungeon entrance. We head in 30 minutes. Most of the warriors let out a weary sigh. Se-hun and Myung-ho were no exception. Everyone's face clearly read, I don't want to, but to make a living they had to drag their feet forward. Time to get ready. Se-hun didn't rush off. He stood there and let out a long breath, leaning against a tree behind him with a look of endless fatigue because there were a few things he was extremely worried about. When entering a dungeon, a conqueror has two things to worry about. First, the possibility of encountering sudden fortune. Fortune in a dungeon can cloud a conqueror's mind, and the dangers hidden within cause them to lower their guard. When they can't think clearly, the dungeon tests them to see what really exists in their minds. Is it luck? Or in reality, a tragedy disguised as luck? Before he could finish his thought, Myung-ho interrupted. Hey, Se-hun, what are you doing? Looking at your phone again. You always do that before going into a dungeon. What are you looking at so intensely? A picture of a girlfriend or something? Se-hun gave a faint smile. It's nothing, then went back to looking at his phone. He wore a rare, happy smile. Inside was a keepsake photo of his mother and himself taken when he was a high school student. Every time he looked at those bright smiles, a wave of warm strength surged, lighting up Se-hun's will. Before stepping through that dangerous dungeon gate, he always silently left a promise. I will return safely, Mom. Having said that, Se-hun quickly followed the crowd into the mysterious dungeon. As soon as they entered, the whole group was transported to a ruined hall, with countless fragments of debris still scattered about before they could even get their bearings. Shadowy creatures appeared, roaring madly. A moment later, the team quickly reorganized. Or rather, the meat shield warriors were ordered, raise your shields properly and stand in line. Do you not understand what I'm saying? I said hold the formation even if you get wiped out. Though very resentful, Se-hun had to swallow his anger, silently cursing to himself. Damn this stupid job. Right behind them, the mages weren't idle either. They started chanting their summoning spells. Oh, the blinding light of Aphim, the raging flames under Sotero, swept away all the enemies in front. After a moment of chanting, the giant fireball had accumulated enough power. in the middle of the fiery battlefield where warriors were risking their lives to block the advance of the torrential wave of shadow creatures. A huge explosion suddenly rang out, shaking the whole sky. The destructive flames of Apham burst forth, shooting straight ahead, incinerating the entire crowd of creatures. Those hideous monsters were turned to ash in an instant. Watching them struggle painfully in the sea of fire caused by the mage's power, Sehun secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He quietly looked back, as if searching for something. The Shooting Star Guild, isn't it? They're a mage guild considered the rising star of the moment. If they can do this much, I probably don't need to worry about losing my life. After the opening battle, everyone took the opportunity to spread out and rest to regain their strength. Myung-ho took a long, refreshing drink of water, tiredly leaning back. He spoke in a flat voice. So we're just down to the final bugs now, huh? Getting old isn't easy. If I had known it would turn out like this, I would have stopped acting so recklessly when I was young and put more effort into leveling up. Sehun encouraged him. Come on, you've still got plenty of energy. Not to mention your level is higher than mine. Suddenly remembering something, Myung-ho hurried to ask, by the way, did you pick up anything good? I found a few things that are decent since this is an A-rank dungeon. Hearing that, he also hurried to check his inventory pouch. I'm not sure, let me check. But the next second, Sehun suddenly froze mid-action, his eyes widening in shock as he stared at the item that had just appeared on his screen, an object of unknown origin. He couldn't even make out its shape, leaving him completely bewildered. Suddenly, a low-pitched beep rang out, sustaining for so long that Sehun's ears began to ring. He hurriedly clutched his head, letting out a soft groan of pain. Once the sound finally faded, Sehun steadied himself, thinking, what was that just now? Just then, a system notification popped up, and he scrambled to read the content. Sehun couldn't hide his astonishment. Asia system has ceased operations. Connection to the player will be temporarily severed. Panicked, he cried out. The system stopped working. This has never happened before. The Asia system cannot reboot due to an unidentified cause. Reboot failed. It left Sehun in a state of utter confusion. What is it talking about? In the next second, countless tiny specks of light appeared, enveloping him. An unexpected guidance echoed in his mind. Follow the light. Sehun couldn't believe his eyes. He frantically scanned his surroundings to double-check, but the system notification text held his gaze captive. An unidentified presence is infiltrating the Asia system. Modification in progress. Reboot failed. At this point, Sehun lost his composure and slumped down. Sitting there in doubt, he wondered, that voice I just heard, what was that? He muttered to himself. It said, follow the light. Hearing the rustling, Myung-ho looked at him, confused. What are you talking about? Sehun didn't know how to explain it, so he simply brushed it off. It's nothing. I think I heard someone say, follow the light. Before he could finish, the specks of light from earlier reappeared, blocking his vision, followed by the entire space was engulfed in those lights. By now, Sehun couldn't hide his bewilderment. What the hell is this, the light it wants me to follow? Myung-ho naturally couldn't see the phenomenon. So he questioned, you've been acting weird lately. Are you sick? Even though he kept insisting, no, I'm fine. His vacant stare told a different story. Since no one else could see them, he decided to check it out. Seeing Sehun suddenly leave, he called out, Hey, where are you going? He answered hurriedly. Just for a moment, I'll be right back. What the hell is going on? Following the guidance of the specks of light, Sehun finally arrived at a nearby cave. He hurriedly opened the system, intending to try accessing it again, but the result was the same. Asia system is currently offline. You cannot access the information window. Tense, Sehun muttered, It's really not working. He quickly performed another check. This time, an explanation for the cause appeared on the screen. A function has partially malfunctioned. The system will temporarily attempt to reboot into C mode. Baffled by this absurd error, Sehun groaned in frustration. Damn it, what the hell is going on? I had awakened when he was only 10 years old, but the system had never glitched before in 17 years. Certainly, there had never been a time when a function broke and the system had to reboot. Recalling the strange phenomenon from earlier, he quietly deduced the voice he heard was highly likely related to the system shutdown and intrusion by an unidentified presence and a system error. That mysterious voice had sent him a message, follow that light. Perhaps the Asia system was about to undergo a major change. Thinking of this, Sehun became more determined to find the answer. The Asia system. It had a connection to the gods. The Asgardian systems, like Odin and Thor, were hypothesized to be the original names of the system derived from the Asgardian gods. It was the final fortress of humanity's hope. After being pushed to the brink of extinction, looking back 25 years ago, the year of the disasters 2011 in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, an infinite tree sprouted. It suddenly germinated one morning and grew so tall it covered the sky within 9 days. Some said it was a sign of the extinction of the human race. Others claimed it was a tree of blessing. The true name of that tree was Yggdrasil, the world tree that had appeared in mythology. And on the 9th day, the tree reached full maturity, and the tragedy began. A world-class disaster, the likes of which no one had ever seen, called monsters, appeared. Half of humanity died at the hands of these monsters, and the other half perished from famine and plague. At a time when everyone was struggling in despair amidst the ruins and rubble, a figure appeared, small but possessing, an aura so overwhelming it was terrifying. He walked slowly, unperturbed and arrogant. Each step he took carried such a formidable pressure that the monsters trembled with every movement, and that was the hope of humanity finally born. Seeing their target, the monsters roared and swarmed him simultaneously. They ferociously bared their fangs and claws, ready to tear the prey in front of them to shreds. But when the distance was just a hair's breadth away, he effortlessly summoned his combat ability, turning the powerful energy into a sharp blade. He swung his hand, wiping out the ferocious herd of monsters. With each precise sword stroke, a beast fell collapsing in agony. Fresh blood sprayed everywhere, smelling pungent, staining the desolate ground red. He was known as the first awakened, a human who held the power of the gods. They awakened, and among them were those who hunted monsters, the conquerors of the Asia system, the strongest weapon held by the strongest hero of humanity. But if something massive had changed the Asia system, it was hard to view it in a positive light. The doubt grew larger, but Chehun still hadn't clarified the cause. Despite having only a few clues after a long time entering the cave, his feet suddenly stopped. Looking at the abnormal gate in front of him, Chehun whispered, "Is this a giant gate?" Thinking of this, the corner of his mouth instinctively curled up, revealing a greedy smile. Chehun deluded himself, a treasure vault. Treasure vaults, hidden rooms that rarely appeared, inside high-level dungeons. They often contained special items and rare materials. People said that the items in the treasure vault, it could sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars if something A rank or higher shows up in there. I could quit this crappy job right now. After a moment of thought, he decided to walk straight inside, pushing the door open while praying. "Please, if there is any god out there, please let it be an A-rank item or better." As the door swung wide open, his confidence in that mysterious treasure grew even more. What hit Chehun's eyes was a vast, sprawling space. The light it radiated made anyone who saw it gasp at its sheer magic. He stood there observing for a long while before exclaiming, thinking that if a space like this exists in a dungeon, then maybe those stories on TV aren't just urban legends after all. Just as he finished his sentence, a blinding beam of light appeared opposite him. Chehun's eyes widened in anticipation, his face unable to hide his excitement. "You wouldn't believe what this looks like. That's definitely an item. Should I check what amazing treasure is hidden here?" Before the smoke even cleared, he impatiently reached out to grab it. As soon as his hand touched it, the system notified him. "System restoration complete. 1 out of 1. A new item has been added. Do you want to appraise the item?" Seeing this, he got even more excited and cheered. Everything was going exactly according to plan, and the system had restored itself at just the right moment. Is it true that good things come to those who wait? After a few breathless seconds, Chehun's hand touched the item. The next second, the system displayed an analysis panel. Item name: the Lost Eye of Odin. Rank: legendary. The eye abandoned by Odin, king of Asgard, to gain wisdom from Mimir's well. Equipping it allows the user to understand languages and use magic to disarm or destroy items. Only one in the world. Warning: item is bound. Seeing its strange name, I was momentarily surprised but quickly took it into his hand. Without him doing anything else, the system confirmed the command: skill activated, cosmic origin, rank S. Recognize any magic formula and destroy it. After converting the magic into a formula and destroying it, mana is consumed based on the magic's level. Destroyed by cosmic origin. Cosmic origin skill effects learned. With complete understanding of ancient scripts, all spells can be used without chanting. Empty card. can be consumed to copy someone else's skill. When copying a skill, there will be no penalty once the skill is acquired. The empty card will be consumed. Looking at the overwhelming features it brought, he couldn't stop exclaiming, "This is real." Even among the items that have appeared in high-end auction houses, the highest is only S rank. The moment such an item appears, it easily crosses the $10 million mark. Especially for magic-related items, you can set the price yourself, and people will buy it no matter how high it is, but thinking this is a legendary item? And on top of that, it's the only one in the world. With this, I won't have to suffer anymore. I won't be banned by guilds, and I won't be forced to act as a human shield in dungeons anymore. This miserable life of raiding is over because I've already absorbed this item. Should I test it? Right, when will I ever be able to get my hands on another legendary item like this again? I should try it at least once before selling it. But just as he activated it, the system displayed a bright red warning. Warning, the lost eye of Odin has become a bound item. Do you wish to equip it? At this, Chae-hun panicked and shouted, "No! Cancel it immediately!" Sitting down on the ground, he muttered regretfully, "I almost wasted a legendary item. Something so hard to obtain. I have no reason to use it. If I sell it on the black market, it'll be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Even if I got a good item, I don't want to keep raiding dungeons anymore. I've already passed my 20s, so I can't level up anymore. It wouldn't really be effective even if I used it." System error. This was an unexpected issue. You could argue this is an anomaly no one has seen before, but I'm too used to these crappy types of problems. In these modern days where dungeons have become reality, unexpected situations for raiders are an everyday occurrence. And situations that happen can usually be categorized into two distinct groups: luck should I go back, or tragedy. Thinking this, Chae-hun slowly turned back to the gathering point. At the same time, Mi-eung-ho was still struggling to explain the reason for his long disappearance. He'll definitely be back soon. It's like he just went out to check on a few things. Please wait a moment. Ah, there he is, Mr. Chae-hun. Come here quickly, we're about to start the raid. Chae-hun hurried over, expressing his apology. Sorry I'm late. The mage grumpily scolded him. It'll be very difficult if you act on your own next time. I hope this kind of situation won't happen again. Knowing he was wrong, he quickly apologized. Yes, I understand. I'll be more careful next time. Watching his back as he walked away, Mi-eung-ho breathed a sigh of relief, but when he turned to look at Chae-hun, he felt a bit of pity. His shoulders were trembling, and combined with his downcast expression earlier, Mi-eung-ho momentarily misunderstood. He quickly patted him on the back to cheer him up. Come on, Chae-hun, don't be so down. But on the contrary, Chae-hun was beaming with joy because he had just obtained a precious item. I excitedly reassured Mi-eung-ho. It's not like that, man. I'm fine, and I'll treat you to drinks tonight. I'm not always messing around with you. Seeing this dizzying change, he couldn't quite wrap his head around it and suspiciously asked, You sure? Chae-hun just walked quickly toward the gathered group of warriors, leaving Mi-eung-ho with a mountain of questions. At 27, has he grown up already? On the other side, Chae-hun didn't show any strange behavior except for a slight curve at the corner of his mouth. Observing the surrounding scene, he silently calculated. Now I have to get out of here with it. This is a dungeon, and because nothing that happens here is ever leaked outside, it's a lawless place. If I've obtained a good item, it's no different than inviting someone to kill me. As planned, it won't be too late to wait and sell the item after this dungeon raid. The most important thing now is to avoid being suspected by anyone. At the same time, above the ceiling of the gathering hall, a faint cracking sound echoed so quiet that no one heard it. The mage leader spoke up loudly to signal. Now that the vanguard is complete, we're starting over. The longer this drags on, the wider the cracks in the ceiling grow until the structure can no longer withstand the pressure. It officially collapsed, followed by a massive commotion. Chae-hun looked toward the source of the blast in shock, relying on his quick reflexes. He managed to dive out of the danger zone just before the ceiling above caved in, burying everything. Chae-hun slid along the ground. A wave of pain hit him, causing him to shout out in a panic, "What was that? What is happening?" On the opposite side, cracks began to spread across the ground. Alarmingly, a horrific purple mist was about to flood the room, spreading faster with each passing second. By the time Chae-hun regained his composure, the mist was already swirling at his feet. He frantically scanned his surroundings, seeing everyone else also struggling against the toxic fog. This is poison. One of those who inhaled it started choking, coughing violently before screaming, "What is this?" Realizing the abnormality, Chae-hun quickly covered his nose and mouth. Is this toxic mist? If I breathe this in for too long, I'll die. I have to get out of here right now. Finding him in the sea of chaos. Myung-ho shouted to warn him. Chae-hun, I think we need to leave this place immediately. This mist, I think it's extremely dangerous. Chae-hun agreed, then immediately shouted a warning to the crowd. Everyone, we have to get out of here, but... A split second later, a dry, piercing thud echoed. A sharp, cold sword thrust through from somewhere, blood splattering everywhere. Chae-hun froze in place for a few seconds. When he finally processed it, he was stunned to see Myung-ho's body pierced by the cold blade. He coughed up a mouthful of blood and slowly slumped down amidst Chae-hun's screams. Myung-ho! His body toppled to the ground. Chae-hun's hands trembled violently in midair, his whole body stiff as stone. His ears began to ring and he couldn't hear a thing. His eyes widened in sheer terror as he stared forward. In a moment of extreme shock, his pupils constricted violently and then quickly glazed over. All that remained in his mind was the desperate urge to run. Chae-hun's legs bolted forward, fueled by a primal survival instinct in the midst of his panic. Even his breathing grew jagged and erratic from fear. As he fled, he kept picturing that horrifying scene from moments ago, that sudden, deafening explosion. In the middle of his flight, his footsteps suddenly faltered. His body felt exhausted as if his strength had been drained. Only then did Chae-hun suddenly remember the appearance of the toxic mist. That toxic mist was released throughout the dungeon earlier. Under the influence of the poison, the scenery before him gradually blurred. Even as he was about to collapse, Chae-hun tried to use his last shred of strength to think, the people who did this isn't the work of monsters. This is definitely the work of the dungeon killers. Could their goal be to wipe out the guild? Heading to the entrance isn't an option. I was likely marked by one of the guards at the exit, therefore, it would be better to stay inside the dungeon. The more Chae-hun speculated, the harder it was to accept the brutal truth. Damn it, why is this happening? Forget it. This is no time to worry about that. This is a legendary item I just obtained. You think I'm just going to die like this? He began a psychological battle. Suddenly, a towering shadow appeared behind him, its gaze locked onto him as if it had been targeting him for a long time. The very next second, a sword wreathed in fire aggressively lunged at Chae-hun's position. Luckily, he detected it in time and dodged the attack. The treacherous strike missed its mark, slamming into the empty space ahead before suddenly exploding, tearing through the darkness and releasing a terrifying surge of energy. Having escaped death by a hair's breadth, Chae-hun turned his head back to identify the attacker. A familiar voice rang out full of sarcasm. I knew you'd survive. Seeing that face, Chae-hun couldn't hide his shock, his mouth unconsciously whispering, Young-gyu-min. I was the one who orchestrated this situation. Instead of feeling remorse, Gyu-min just flashed a smug, amused smile. I gloated, didn't I tell you that I would come to visit you today? Seeing the opponent's arrogant expression, Chae-hun gritted his teeth in fury. Gyu-min, did you do this? Releasing the toxic gas and attacking the Shooting Star Guild? I didn't rush to answer, just lazily wiped the corner of his mouth and shrugged. Gyu-min raised his voice, admitting, yes, that's right, knowing he was the culprit. Chae-hun couldn't help but be agitated when he finally admitted it. He intended to confront him directly, but as he calmed down, he silently calculated, stay calm. First, I need to get a clear picture of the situation. Why would he? Gyu-min sighed, his voice feigning helplessness as he explained, it's just what the client requested. Plus, a lot of people don't like the Shooting Star Guild. They look down on everyone else. Wouldn't it be weirder if nobody hated them? Dungeon killers, the name used for those who use closed-off dungeons for their own purposes and commit murder inside. Given the situation, this surprise attack on the Shooting Star Guild happened in a blind spot exactly like this. Thinking of the culprit as Gyu-min, the wound on Chae-hun's shoulder throbbed for having trusted the wrong person. He could only mutter in agony, damn it, can I handle him? No way. Jung Ju-min is an A-rank mage. He's one of the top 2 talents in the country and I'm only D-rank. Not only do I not have any skills, but I'm also really weak. I'm just strictly average. Plus, I wasn't their target. I just need to keep my mouth shut. That was the system's warning just now, so there's no guarantee I'll make it out alive. It's unfair and there's no other way but thinking about it now. Chae-hun feels truly unwilling to just let it go when he remembers the faces of every victim, but given his current strength, he has to put his dream of revenge on hold. Weakly, he thinks to himself, of course I want to take revenge for those who fought alongside me in the defense line, especially Myung-ho. But in reality, there's nothing he can do because the world tree has already sprouted. Thinking of this, Jae-hoon suddenly makes a request to Gwang-min. I'll pretend that nothing happened today. Sadly, the world isn't tolerant of the weak. So from what he said, the other guy somehow guessed something, immediately cutting him off. You already know, don't you? That's exactly why. Guangmin made up his mind to strike. As soon as the words left his lips, the firepower in his hands was unleashed. A thunderous explosion erupted right where Jae-hoon was standing, turning everything into ashes in an instant. But with his quick reflexes, he managed to lurch to the right to dodge. However, the attack still caused him some damage, and warm blood began to seep from a scratch. He just let out a quiet sigh of relief. If he had reacted a second slower, he would have been done for. But then he saw the sinister smile on Guangmin's lips. A chilling sensation crept up his spine. Guangmin pointed directly at Jae-hoon and declared, "The goal of the dungeon today isn't just the guild, you know." As he finished speaking, countless missiles were launched. They attacked him relentlessly, aiming to cut off every path of retreat. Jae-hoon leaped away, escaping the pursuit of the light chains, but deep down he knew, this is only a temporary strategy. Damn it, no matter what happens, I have to get out of this situation. Why is he chasing me? I'm only a D rank. Remembering the opponent's aggressive pursuit, Jae-hoon wondered to himself, who have I offended? Is there someone who wants me dead? He tried his hardest to think. Who could it be? While his life was hanging by a thread, he instinctively remembered that image. The silhouette of a supreme ruler, his entire body radiating an evil power. Insane to the extreme, he kept hurling insults, trampling on Jae-hoon's mind, turning him into a completely useless person in his own nightmare. You useless trash! I don't know what use there is in a brat like you being alive. That detail was like the final piece of a puzzle, making him even more certain of his guess. His lips trembled and a shaky voice escaped. Is it my father? As the words left his lips, Guangmin paused, his eyes widening in total shock. Even the light chains that were armed suddenly stopped hovering in midair. It was as if time had frozen. He slowly raised his hand to adjust his glasses for a long moment, as if to hide his agitation, yet his shoulders were still trembling uncontrollably. Then suddenly he burst into laughter, a hearty, mocking laugh filled with sarcasm. Standing amidst his opponent's mockery, Jae-hoon let his shoulders slump. Bitterly, he understood the answer. It took a while before Guangmin finally spoke up, admitting, "Wow, you're really smart, aren't you? That's exactly why I like you." At that moment, the image he always smiled at whenever he remembered it suddenly turned a dull, grayish black. Down to this point, Jae-hoon only had one question left. "Let me ask you one thing," he said, his voice hesitant, following that the painful images of the past flooded back like a slow-motion film. It was as if it were gnawing away at his pain bit by bit. With all his might, Jae-hoon whispered his final words. 5 winters ago, that person committed that act as well, didn't they? Guangmin, still caught in the same emotional state as before, replied with a laugh. "I never thought you'd figure that out. That is truly amazing." Regardless of the opponent's scorn, the only thing he was waiting for was confirmation. But contrary to his tension, Guangmin just found it ridiculous. He stepped closer toward Jae-hoon, his voice raspy as he spoke with sarcasm. "I really don't understand a husband killing his wife and then his own son." The light chains in his hands were finally released. Violently lunging at Jae-hoon's position, he no longer wanted to dodge and just stood there letting it graze past him. Guangmin didn't stop hurling challenges as if trying to provoke Jae-hoon's resentment. "Isn't that just too wrong? Don't you think so? Well, it's already happened anyway. Goodbye." Ignoring his rambling, meaningless words, Jae-hoon completely shut him out and focused all his energy on a plan to turn the tide. His lips slightly murmured something that no one could hear. The next second, the screen in front of him flickered and gently split open. What appeared right after that was the Eye of Odin, a high-grade item that Jae-hoon had accidentally picked up. Guangmin, unaware of what was happening, was still focused on his affectionate act. What is there something you want to... The next second, the smile on his face suddenly stiffened, clearly awkward. The scene before him forced Guangmin's act to an abrupt halt. Right behind Jae-hoon, a massive, blinding surge of magic was wildly converging. Seeing that power, he screamed in terror. What kind of magic is this? Under the immense pressure of the massive energy, the ground beneath Jae-hoon began to crack and sink deep into the earth. The entire space suddenly shook violently, yet he still stood there with a cold, unwavering face. Conversely, Guangmin on the other side was truly panicked. The mana is getting stronger. What on earth is happening? Something is being released. I need to finish this quickly. Thinking this, he tensely shouted, "Our game is over. Die this time!" As soon as the words were spoken, a light chain immediately tore through the air and lunged forward. It curved through the air a few times, then, like a wild beast, plunged straight toward Jae-hun. Kwangmin held his breath anxiously, waiting for the moment the projectile pierced his flesh. But just as the Reaper was inches away, Jae-hun suddenly opened his eyes wide, successfully activating the Eye of Odin. A terrifying pressure erupted from his body. It clamped down on this projectile, freezing it in midair. It couldn't advance even a single millimeter. Just a second later, the chain of light shattered into pieces and vanished completely into nothingness, crushed by the absolute pressure of the defensive magic radiating from behind Jae-hun. Watching his cherished attack get broken so easily, the guy was stunned into a daze. The remnants of his counterattack dissipated instantly, fading into the void. The very next second, the system notification appeared. The lost eyes of Odin have been equipped. The item is now bound to the user. Jae-hun finally had the moment to answer the interrupted question. "I get it now. I can't let you off the hook anymore." In a flash, he activated the blank card from his inventory. A blank card had been used. It took a long while for Gyumin to realize the truth, and he shrieked madly, "No way! What, my magic? Was it dispersed?" Ignoring him as he stood there yelling, Jae-hun calmly stepped forward, quietly calling out the name Gyumin. The system quickly updated the status. Effect of the lost eyes of Odin activated. Blank card used. Every word of warning was uttered slowly by him. "I will destroy you in the most painful way possible." Suddenly, a screen appeared in front of him. Skill copied active skill chain of light. As soon as the copy was successful, Jae-hun immediately summoned a barrage of magic arrows identical to the attack Gyumin had just unleashed. Not only were they detailed in every way, but their power was many times greater. Looking at the mass of light chains hovering right behind Jae-hun, he stuttered in terror. "How can you use the chain of light?" His heart was completely chaotic. "I spent years learning that spell. Then how could a rank F warrior possibly use it?" "I don't know how you're using a high-level spell like that, but do you think you can beat me with just that?" Jae-hun replied indifferently. "I'm not sure either, but we'll find the answer soon." As he finished, the entire swarm of light chains suddenly launched forward, confronting Gyumin just like the way he had attacked him. Countless explosions from the light chains rang out one after another, forcing the entire surrounding space to withstand an incredibly terrifying pressure. The light chains kept launching one after another. Under Jae-hun's control, no matter how much he dodged or fled, they followed him closely. With the pressure building to its peak, Gyumin activated his counterattack. But what he launched only had 1/10 the power of Jae-hun's light chains. Not letting his opponent rest for too long, he quickly summoned another attack. Active skill, Origin of the Universe, activated. Just as Gyumin's light chains arrived, a sweep of Jae-hun's hand shattered them to pieces. The arrow pierced through the solid shield and momentum carried it, straight toward Gyumin as if pre-programmed. In his desperate situation, he became panicked. Damn it! Just as the arrow was about to pierce him, Gyumin managed to activate a magic barrier to protect himself. But Jae-hun wouldn't let him gloat. He immediately pushed the attack harder. Active skill, Origin of the Universe, activated. The solid barrier that Gyumin was so proud of shattered in an instant. He stared wide-eyed in horror as the arrow drew closer and closer. He couldn't avoid it. A deafening explosion rang out in the quiet space, burning everything. Gyumin's heart and everything around him into ashes. As the dust and embers slowly settled, Jae-hun strolled forward to observe the body lying on the ground. Gyumin groaned incessantly in pain. The destructive power of the light chains had crippled him in an instant, turning the arrogant man into a gasping corpse. He parted his lips to beg for his life, but before he could finish, Jae-hun struck the final blow to end any future trouble. A soft explosion echoed in the void. Gyumin gasped slightly and then went completely still. Watching the dungeon assassin defeated by his own hand, Jae-hun breathed a sigh of relief. Warm, fresh blood trickled from the corner of his mouth, making him vaguely mutter, "Is it all over now?" The next second, Jae-hun collapsed to the ground because his body had reached its final limit. Carrying a body riddled with wounds, he felt exhausted. He slowly closed his eyes and sank into a deep coma. But before that, a thought flashed through his mind. Magic power. There's nothing left in my body. I finally got a mythical item only to die and rot like this. No wonder. All my luck was poured into today. Death, a terrifying word I've faced countless times while working as a raider. However, facing it for real now, it's so cold. As Chaehun's eyes closed, the system screen displayed a notification, "New operating system loaded." "Do you want to initialize it?" Hastily opening his eyes, he vaguely read the information. "Once the new operating system is active, time will rewind to the moment the user desires most." His mouth tried to whisper, "Rewind. Are you trying to save me another variable?" He didn't know if the end of this road would be happiness or tragedy, but for now, returning for Chaehun was the best choice. He made up his mind, all right, initialize it. But if this is the only decision I can make right now, then I have no other choice. The new system, the Nonia system, initialized. Immediately after, vague memories from his coma flashed by. The figures of the gods of Nonia appeared one after another. The gods in charge of fate and destiny for both gods and humans were laid out clearly in Chaehun's mind like a movie. They seemed to be trying to say something, but he couldn't understand it at all. The goddess gently reached out, a hand slowly extended to take his. A moment later, the system appeared with an urgent notification. "From now on, you are the enemy of the Supreme Almighty Asia. Passive skill, followed by the gods, acquired. Passive skill, omnipotent divine eyes, acquired. The gods opposing Asia are watching you." Breaking out of the nightmare, Chaehun screamed loudly. As soon as he woke up, he sat bolt upright. When he saw the scene around him clearly, Chaehun couldn't help but scream in terror, "What the hell? What is going on?" He hurriedly looked at his rough, stiff hands from moments ago. Now they were healed without a single scratch. Between his palms, a glowing red orb suddenly appeared. The system has successfully updated the latest notifications. Rewinding time to the moment the user most desperately wished for, Chaehun realized the truth unfolding before his eyes and, still in shock, stammered, "Am I dreaming or what?" Every painful memory from the past began to play in reverse. Though somewhat blurry, Chaehun could still feel the bone-deep agony of that day piece by piece. At this point, he couldn't help but doubt, have I really returned to the past? No, this must just be a dream. Every time he remembered the happy moments with his mother, Chaehun tried to convince himself it was just a long dream, until the bedroom door suddenly swung open and she turned to look at him with a bright smile. He prayed that this image wouldn't fade away. Chaehun rushed over to hug his mother, tears welling up. Immersed in the happiness he hadn't felt in so long, he made a silent vow. "This is a moment I never want to wake up from." Returning to reality, the system began to display the timestamp June 13th, 2022. The user has completed the process. Having reversed to the exact time he desired, Chaehun clutched his chest, which was aching incessantly, and let out a few soft sounds. The screen above continued to display notifications. "Current status restrictions on non-combat activities have been removed. Your body has recovered 20%. After calming down, he whispered, "Am I dreaming? This is my old house." New quest, "Rest is the mother of success," has been automatically initiated. Quest, "Rest is the mother of success." You are a patient who has miraculously survived death. Please take time to rest and recover your health. Health recovery reached 80%. Difficulty F. Reward white card quantity 1. Reading the message board in front of him, Chaehun muttered, "A quest, huh?" Once he grasped what was happening, he let out a long sigh. Back to the starting point then. I didn't die while fighting Min Sung, so what's the real reason? Recalling the warning from back then when the new operating system started running. Time will rewind to the moment the user most desires. Chaehun speculated, it must be because of this system. It was the very thing that made me regress to the past. My mind still retains the existence of the world tree and the monsters. This isn't the first time I've experienced strange things like this. And the experience I've gained from facing such situations is to adapt and analyze the situation quickly. This is precisely the top priority. If the system's information is correct, the current time is 11 years ago. I'm in my 3rd year of middle school right now. Just as he was deep in thought, the system sent a message. Operating system successfully transformed into the Nonia system. Chaehun mumbled, "Nonia, is that the name of this new system?" Honestly, this regression still feels like a dream, however. Thinking this, he picked up the calendar he used to mark important events. The corner of Chaehun's mouth curled up involuntarily, revealing a cunning smile as he concluded, "There is one thing I'm certain of." Inside the paper, there was only one event box filled out an application for the Milek Academy. Instead of accepting his old path, he immediately reached for the pen next to him and slowly crossed out the note below. "No matter what, I have to take the combat class." He made up his mind. This new opportunity is incredibly precious. I won't make the same mistakes again. In this life, I'm going to become a mage. Just like that, Jae-hoon began to adapt to this life in the past. He slowly savored these simple things piece by piece. While sitting at dinner, Jae-hoon kept his expression stiff. His serious demeanor made his mother worry. She thought to herself in confusion, "Has the boy run into some trouble lately?" At the same time, recalling the moment Jae-hoon rushed to hug her and sobbed earlier, she became even more suspicious. "He's usually quite quiet. I don't understand why he cried so much today." Thinking this, his mother put down her chopsticks and said in a hurried tone, "Jae-hoon, is something wrong, honey?" Contrary to her anxiety, he just smiled happily and replied, "It's nothing, Mom. I just had a nightmare." Suddenly hearing those two words, Jae-hoon's mother became even more unsettled. A nightmare. He nodded silently to confirm, yeah. The nightmare Jae-hoon was referring to was the moment his mother faced death all alone, lying cold and isolated on a steel hospital bed. Jae-hoon's eyes began to blur, but he tried to suppress it, not letting the tears flow. After a long silence, Jae-hoon suddenly spoke up. "Mom, I want to talk to you about something." She nodded gently. "Yeah, I knew you had something to tell me." Is the boy worried about submitting the application for Mylek Academy? It's not that surprising. Becoming a subjugator is a very dangerous job, and the competition is also extremely fierce. If he doesn't want to, I should probably advise him to give up on the academy. Mylek, to study there instead of a regular school. The reputation of the military academy is truly prestigious, but if he doesn't want to go, there's no point. After reflecting for a moment, he finally gathered the courage to say, "I'm thinking of switching to the mage class." His mother replied quickly before she could even hear him clearly, "That's fine, but—" The next second she froze and looked at Jae-hoon with a puzzled expression. But he was so determined to take the combat class from the beginning. He's a very rational person, so this definitely isn't an impulsive decision. Thinking this, his mother's emotions softened. She reached out to touch Jae-hoon's face to soothe him, then asked again, "Have you really decided?" He happily replied, "Yes, I've been thinking about this for a long time." Hearing that, the feeling of unease in Jae-hoon's mother's heart faded somewhat. Instead, she supported her son. "All right, just do whatever you want. I want you to do what you love rather than chasing after money. Whether it's magic or anything else, that's fine. I will always support you." Hearing these words of encouragement, Jae-hoon was moved to the point where tears welled up uncontrollably, but he still tried to hold on, thinking, "This isn't the time to cry Min-sung. To take revenge and fight against an A-rank subjugator like you, I have to become stronger." Just then, the system displayed a congratulatory notification. "You have completed the quest, Rest is the Mother of Success. You have received a blank card as a reward for completing the mission, allowing you to go head-to-head with A-rank conquerors from this very moment. Jae-hoon has already begun his grueling training and finished the mission. I've also received another blank card. Things are progressing quite well. I still don't know what the Nonia system is, but at least I have an advantage. And that is knowing the future. I know about hidden items and even secret ruins. I have such a great memory that I could even become a guide when traveling through dungeons. The problem now is my skills. Except for light chain and universal ones, my remaining skills belong to the combat class, I guess. Choosing to learn the combat class from the beginning wasn't that strange. Jae-hoon kept muttering to himself, "Can't I do anything? Why am I here?" He quickly pulled up his status window to check the numbers, which momentarily overwhelmed him. He whispered, "My level has reset to the starting point. Stats have been reinitialized as well. Passive skills, the one watched by the gods. Max, Omnipotent Eye. Max Apprentice Swordsman. Level 17, Pure Speed. Level 15, Agile Movement. Level 14. First Aid Emergency First Aid Level 18. Active Universal Skills. Light Chain New." Seeing the copy skill still present in the info board, Jae-hoon couldn't help but be curious. But why were only the passive skills kept? The system promptly explained, "Through the one watched by the gods skill, all passive skills from before the regression have been retained." Seeing the strange info, he suspiciously asked, "One watched by the gods, a passive skill rank infinite. Helps the user grow under the blessings of the gods. Effects. After regression, all passive skills are kept intact. Each time the user levels up, all stats will increase significantly. The gods who oppose the queen are watching you." Upon reaching this point, he couldn't hide his excitement at this superior update. A skill that boosts all stats. More importantly, the attention of the gods who oppose the queen. I have to check the other skills. Acting on his thought, Chehun moved to the passive skill information board. Omnipotent Eye, rank infinite. See through false illusions to reach absolute reality. An active skill light chain, rank A. Attack the enemy with chains of light. Paralyzes the enemy on the first hit. Seeing it for the first time, he was a bit confused and muttered, I'm still not clear on what Omnipotent Eye is. Light Chain is definitely a useful skill. My skill parameters. A mage doesn't need to focus too much on stamina, but I at least need a few points in dexterity to dodge attacks, and my magic power is clearly that of a beginner. Chehun hesitated here. However, dexterity increased by 2, magic power increased by 5, and endurance increased by 14. The most important thing is still endurance. Endurance is not a stat that increases easily. Combat power, like stamina, only helps the owner reduce fatigue when performing repetitive tasks. If I focus my attention on it first, then it would be easy to see that this is a stat with useful effects. Upon leveling up, I have already chosen a priority. Now the important thing is to choose the skill to learn. I have Light Chain, so I consider that an attack skill. If I force myself to learn high-level spells now, I won't be able to use them due to a lack of mana. Holding the blank card in his hand, a future mage like him began to calculate. I think the most necessary thing now is a healing spell, right? It's the year 2020. The mage class is treated like garbage by the combat class, but a conqueror with a healing skill is different. They are treated like nobles regardless of their true background, because even if they don't become conquerors, they can still work in the medical field, so they are treated very well. If I start with a healing skill, at least I won't be looked down upon wherever I go. But the big problem is that meeting an awakener who possesses a healing skill is not easy. Above all, it won't help when facing Gyumin. In the long run, I need to start using the blank cards as effectively as possible. I don't know if the system will give me many cards, but it doesn't seem like there are enough items to fill a truck or break the balance. After calculating for a while and still not finding a satisfactory path, Chehun felt a bit stuck. Any other options? Just then his phone rang. He curiously wondered, who's that, as soon as he saw the name on the screen. Chehun couldn't hide the panic in his eyes. He stammered in confusion. Kim Do-jung? Kim Do-jung is my childhood friend. We lived near each other, so we almost always went everywhere together. She is a best friend who shares the dream of joining Mild just like me, but during a dungeon conquest mission, she lost her life. Looking at Do-jung's blood-soaked body, Chehun had cried his eyes out in pain. Just thinking about it, he felt strangely tense. Trying to regain his composure, Chehun whispered to calm himself down. It's okay, I can change everything now. No, I must change it. She was still the same as he remembered. On the screen, Do-jung was sending a message. What is she doing now, Saintess Yu-sung? Yu-sung is starting to give a speech on the street already. Do you want to go meet her with me? Answer me quickly, geez, hurry up. Reading this part. Chehun didn't bother answering her, but instead shouted with excitement. That's right. It's her Saintess Yu-sung, and her representative magic is sacrifice. If I have her help, I don't need to worry anymore. Thinking and doing, he quickly grabbed his jacket and dashed out. Before that, Chehun didn't forget to report to his mother. Mom, I'm going out for a bit. She smiled and reminded him, don't come home too late, okay? As soon as the door closed, Chehun opened his phone to reply to Do-jung. The message content was only a few words, coming right away, my friend. At the same time, the car carrying Yu-sung was still speeding down the road. Yu-sung's voice spoke steadily. I will briefly announce the schedule to you. You have to give a speech to motivate people to conquer the dungeons at the outdoor stage for the people on the street. After that, we'll head to the B-rank dungeon near Sungbuk District. Once we've finished inspecting the terminal facilities in Guangzhou, we'll fly to the States. Honestly, with the way things are right now, are you actually going to be okay? You look even paler than before. She sat there quietly listening to the entire announcement before calmly replying, I'm fine, I'm just a little tired. But looking at that exhausted expression, he couldn't help but rebuke her, saying it was because she was forcing herself to work non-stop through such a packed schedule over these past few months. You know it yourself. This sacrificial spirit of yours is slowly eating away at your life. Driven by his concern for Sungun-ju, he had often wished that there was at least one other person who possessed a healing spell on the same level as that sacrifice. If that were the case, we could help her. Lost in her own thoughts, she suddenly spoke up to interrupt. We already agreed not to discuss this anymore, Mr. Sung. Hearing this weak rejection, he silently gripped the steering wheel in frustration, unable to shake his worry. At this rate, she, the Saintess of South Korea, would collapse soon. After a long journey, Chae-hun finally arrived at the meeting spot. Seeing him, Ju-jung excitedly grabbed his arm and pulled him along. "You're finally here. Let's go. There's a huge crowd up ahead." Being dragged through the crush of people, Chae-hun grumbled uncomfortably. I know, stop pulling." As they walked, she suddenly stopped in her tracks, her eyes darting around as if looking for something. Seeing that he chuckled and teased her, "Hey, be honest. You told me to come with you because you were afraid of getting lost, right?" Hitting the nail on the head. Ju-jung flushed with embarrassment and shouted, "What are you talking about? That's not it, don't talk nonsense." Taking advantage of the moment, Chae-hun ordered, "Let go of my hand." Only then did she realize she was still holding tightly onto his arm. Her face instantly turned bright red from embarrassment. Catching on to her true feelings, Chae-hun teased her a bit more. Why is it that a girl who only likes studying and sports is always causing trouble just because she has no sense of direction? Once he finished, Ju-jung shouted, "Hey, if it weren't for me, you wouldn't even be able to see this lecture or anything else. Do you think it's easy to catch a glimpse of Miss Sung-un?" Hearing that, he became serious and reconsidered. She wasn't wrong. If he could copy Ju Sung-un's sacrifice ability, it would be a huge help to him in the future. He might even be able to build the largest human network in all of South Korea. A little later, the two of them found a spot to stand. Looking at the scenery around them, Chae-hun thought to himself, just as expected from Ju Sung-un, a speech full of inspiration from guild leader Ju. Sung-un of the top Korean guild Hwangwa saves the world and its people through the power of healing magic. As the guild leader of Hwangwa, she is a top-tier healer, a person famous not only in this country, but known throughout the entire world. During her time working as an unknown pioneer, she was the one who tried to protect the citizens from external threats. But his train of thought was interrupted by the appearance of Sung-un. She gently began her introduction. "Hello, everyone." It was just a simple standard greeting. But given Sung-un's popularity, the crowd around them went wild with screaming. Chae-hun, however, just sat there unmoved. His expression didn't change in the slightest. In the next 2 months, Ju Sung-un will find herself in a critical situation during the Itaewon dungeon raid. The cause of this is nothing other than this very healing lecture of hers. There was only one way to save her. Ju Sung-un was busy focusing, lost in her own thoughts, when Ju-jung's shouting and cheering made him have to cut his thoughts short. "Uni, look over here," Chae-hun coldly judged. "What an eyesore." No sooner had he said that than she reacted immediately, "Shut up." Turning back to Sung-un, who was standing on the high podium, she began her lecture as always. "Everyone, the world today is facing an unprecedented crisis. A world tree after the appearance of monsters. Countless people have lost their lives. Of course, with the emergence of awakened individuals and pioneers a few years ago, this situation has become a little better. But among the awakened of today, only 20% volunteer to be pioneers, despite the reality that the number of deaths is rising exponentially." Pausing for a long time, Sung-un bitterly pleaded, "The world has always stood on the boundary between life and death. Even now, it's impossible to count how many innocent people have died. I stand here to tell everyone that we need courage. To all the awakened around the world, your courage can change this world. Please become a pioneer. Make the world a brighter place, so that one day the world will be even more beautiful. The Hwangwa Guild and I will help you make that a reality." At the end, she bowed to show her sacrificial heart. Below in the spectator area, the audience couldn't help but be moved. Ju-jung was tearing up, exclaiming, "Ms. Sung-un really is such a great speaker." The raw truth of this world spoken through Sung-un's lips made even someone as composed as Chae-hun feel a bit stirred. She was right. The vast majority of awakened didn't want to become pioneers. Facing monsters to fight them was not easy at all. Even he, right before he quit, had wanted to sell all his items and live a free, leisurely life. Even after the lecture ended, Ju-jung didn't forget to exclaim, "Just as I thought, Ms. Sung-un surpasses all standards to be a true role model." But he immediately brushed that thought away. "I don't think Ju Sung-un has those kinds of standards." Continuously picked on by Chae-hun, she started to get annoyed. "Don't ruin the mood, okay?" Not wanting to bicker any further, he just decided to leave. "Whatever, I'm heading out now. I've got stuff to do." Du-trung was caught off guard and shouted, "Wait, what? What about me?" I immediately hit her with a low blow. "I thought you said you weren't bad with directions." Du-trung gnashed her teeth in frustration, glaring at him. "You are such a jerk, seriously. I bet you're a professional bully too, aren't you?" Seeing her start to get worked up, Chi-hun backed off and tried to smooth things over. Just kidding. I already called your mom. She'll be here soon. Just wait a bit. Upon hearing that, she suggested, then why don't you just ride in my mom's car? Don't you have something urgent to do? Suddenly remembering, he hadn't told his best friend the big news, he looked back and shouted, "Oh, right, I'm switching jobs to become a magician." Before she could even process it, Du Trung screamed, "What?" Without a word of explanation, Chae-hun just acted like it was no big deal. That's that. You'll have to teach me some basic magic later, starting with the fundamentals. She looked confused and replied, "No, I mean sure, but wait. Why do you suddenly want to change your profession? Tell me, can't you just answer me?" Hey Min Cha-hun just kept walking away, leaving her standing there with a million questions. You cold-blooded jerk. Are you really just leaving me like this? After searching for a while, Chi-hun grumbled in frustration. I swear I saw them around here. Turning a corner, he finally spotted Sung-un's car. Chae-hun's lips curled into a satisfied smirk, and he slowly walked toward them. Seeing a stranger approach, Sung-chi became guarded. He flatly refused to let anyone get close. Sorry, but if you're looking to give her gifts as a fan, that's not allowed. Chae-hun beamed and immediately clarified, I'm here to meet Guildmaster Du Sung-un. But to Sung-chae, whether it was a meeting or a gift, it was still harassment. Sung-cha grumbled to himself. Another crazed fan. A raider this time. Look at this guy. Sung-chae refused him point blank. I don't care how big a fan you are. How on earth did you even get here? If you keep acting like this, Guildmaster Du Sung-un is going to be uncomfortable. Before he could finish, Chae-hun cut him off. No, that's why I know Guildmaster Du. Sung-un has an incurable illness, and I know how to cure it. The moment he said it, the man's face went pale. After a few seconds of shock, Sung-chi roared in rage, grabbing Chae-hun by the collar. Who the hell are you? Where did you hear that? Who told you the Guildmaster is sick? Unfazed by the man's outburst, Chi-hun just gave him a cold, warning look. I don't think screaming is going to help you at all. Sung-chi's commotion had already drawn the attention of passers-by. Everyone stopped and stared with curiosity. At that moment, Sung-un suddenly rolled down the car window and called out, Sung-chae, wait a second. Can you take responsibility for what you just said? Seeing that he had their attention, he brushed the man's hand away and replied confidently, Of course, I can cure her. The Guildmaster nodded gently, though she remained skeptical. If he was lying, he'd be arrested on the spot. But he looked so confident. He must have something up his sleeve to be this sure of himself. Sung-un asked, How much time is left in your next schedule? Sung-chae replied quietly, 2 more hours. Upon hearing this, she smiled and gave the order, Then let's go. Somewhere quiet. There are too many eyes here. Arriving at a nearby hotel room, Sung-un gestured politely. Please sit. As he took a seat, Chae-hun responded courteously. Thank you. Not wanting to waste any more time, she got straight to the point. So let's take it slow. How did you know I was sick? He spoke with a serious tone. I'm sorry, but I can't tell you. If you really want to hear it, I could say it, but once I do, I won't cure you. Hearing that, Sung-un let out an amused laugh. What a stubborn kid. Fine, that's fair. So how exactly do you plan on curing me? Instead of hiding it, Chi-hun bluntly stated his intent. To be honest, I plan to copy your sacrifice skill. The moment he finished, she gasped in pure shock. What Sung? Kuro lunged forward, agitated. He shouted angrily, Don't bother listening to him. Do you even know what the sacrifice skill is, you brat? That's our Guildmaster's unique skill. Even we can't copy that magic, and you're just going to waltz in here and claim you can do it. Just as he had anticipated, he didn't rush to explain, thinking to himself, unique skills. Skills at the very peak, ranking higher than any other top-tier ability. Whether it's an S-rank skill passed down through bloodlines or something acquired by a single individual, there are only 2 ways to obtain one. While other normal skills rely on formulas, no such formula exists for a unique skill. Unique skills cannot be copied. That's why. Unique skills are the exclusive property of an individual or a family, or at least that's the social convention. After a moment of thought, Chae-hun spoke in a cool, steady voice. Calm down. If I couldn't do it, I wouldn't have come here at all. Sung-chae was absolutely fuming, but for the sake of Sung-un, he forced himself to swallow his rage, just standing there glaring at him with a low, menacing voice. Seeing this, she spoke up as well, signaling them to calm down. There's still time to decide after we hear what he has to say. She turned to Chae-hun and Sung-un, cautiously probing for details. So what you're saying is you'll be the one to heal him. By using my own sacrifice skill, right? He nodded in response. Taryung was silently calculating. To heal an injury caused by the penalty of a skill, you need a skill of equal or higher rank. Furthermore, the skill that caused Sungun's injury was a unique skill. It wasn't as if there weren't skills higher than a unique rank, but she couldn't heal herself using sacrifice. Therefore, this was the best method. The fundamental principle of Sungun's skill was exactly what its name implied: sacrifice. On offering presented to the gods. That's why Yu Sungyun cannot heal herself. It would create a contradiction in the concept of sacrificing one's life if she were to heal her own wounds. Seeing the other party still hesitating and unresponsive, Chae-hun cut in, "If you're willing to do that," before he could finish. Sung-eun happily nodded. "All right, I agree." The acceptance was uttered without a hint of doubt, prompting Chae-hun to react immediately as the guildmaster gathered her mana to cast her exclusive sacrifice spell before the eyes of Shi-hun sat opposite her, eyes fixed on every move, nodding in satisfaction. Under the table, he slowly waved his hand and an empty card was immediately summoned. The system immediately registered. A new skill is available for acquisition. Would you like to acquire the skill Sacrifice into your empty card? He replied in a low voice. Acquire. As soon as Sung-yin finished casting the spell, the Sacrifice skill was successfully recorded onto the empty card. The copying process was perfectly executed, leaving Chae-hun couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. He then spoke slowly to show his sincerity. "I didn't think you'd trust me, so I should earn your trust first, shouldn't I?" As soon as he finished, Chae-hun immediately performed Sacrifice right before their eyes. The system notified both, "You have activated the skill Sacrifice." Seeing the Sacrifice spell performed by a stranger rather than Sung-yin left both of them stunned. Finishing the performance, he clenched his fist and spoke with confidence. "All right, now shall we proceed with the healing?" After the copying process, Chae-hun had successfully obtained the Sacrifice skill that so many people craved. The info board updated quickly. Active skill Sacrifice. Unique skill level 1 creates a healing wave that restores vitality and status to most allies. If used on undead monsters, it converts into attack skill, Judgment of Light. The skill was copied using up one empty card without any penalty. Seeing it, he couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. At this point, she asked, "So what do you want from our guild?" Despite her outward appearance, Sung-yun still had many reservations about the person before her. The fact that he could cure her illness was enough to make her willing to negotiate, but looking at him, he seemed like he had just hit level 3. It was hard to believe a child could initiate a negotiation while standing before the master of the Jonah Guild. Thinking this, the corners of her mouth curved up, drawing a look of anticipation. "How interesting. I've been waiting for this moment." Chae-hun frankly made his request, "Please become my sponsor." Sung-eun wasn't surprised, just pondered quietly and asked back, "A sponsor to help you develop your status as a conqueror. Is that what you mean?" He nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, I have great ambitions, but to grow, I realize I need money connections and many other things." For those reasons, he wanted the Jonah Guild to sponsor him. After weighing the pros and cons, she gently accepted his request but added a condition. "Fine if you have the guts to do this. I'm sure you're worth the investment. You have talent too. However, I have a condition." Hearing this, Chae-hun went quiet. A condition even though everything seemed unfavorable to her. Since he was the only hope to cure her illness, she didn't lose her pride because she was the master of the Jonah Guild. Thinking this, he asked back, maintaining her elegant demeanor. Sung-yin analyzed, "Yes, a condition. You see, my illness is a personal matter. It has nothing to do with Jonah. But what you crave is not just my support but the support of an entire guild. If I support you without asking for anything in return..." She left her words hanging just long enough for Chae-hun to interrupt. "What you're trying to say is that this trade isn't fair. I understand. Then I will decide after hearing your condition. After all, the one bearing the consequences if not cured is you, Sung-yun, not me." She surely wouldn't propose an unreasonable condition. Seeing he was still hesitant and hadn't given an answer, she elegantly made an offer that Chae-hun couldn't refuse. "Do you want to join a guild?" He paused for a few seconds but quickly calmed down and pondered, "Is she trying to recruit me?" Chae-hun nervously asked again to verify, "Are you serious?" Sung-eun nodded nonchalantly, taking the opportunity to explain why so he wouldn't wonder further. "Of course. I'm not someone who jokes about such things. There are a few reasons why I asked you that. First, the fact that you discovered I, the master of the Jonah Guild, am ill. This is confidential information only a very few people know. Your finding this out proves that your investigative skills are excellent. Hearing the praise, Chae-hoon couldn't feel happy even though he knew this information thanks to his journey back through time. But for now, he couldn't say that. Sung-yun quietly continued to praise him. Second, you copied my sacrifice perfectly. I've never heard of anyone possessing the ability to copy a unique skill before. I don't know if someone like you will appear in the future. Just imagine how many skills you can copy. The probability is infinite. Knowing all of this was thanks to the support from the system. He hesitantly spoke up. Is there a third reason? She chuckled amused and added, yes, there is a third, and it's the most important. Third, even though I am sitting right in front of you, you haven't shown a single trace of anxiety. A child who isn't afraid when facing the master of the Jonah Guild, that's quite attractive. Well, are those reasons enough to recruit you? Chae-hoon wasn't easily persuaded. He didn't accept immediately, but began to reflect on the fate of the guild in his previous life. After Yu Sung-yun fell into a critical condition, the guild, Jonah quickly collapsed for unknown reasons. But at this moment, there was no doubt they were the strongest guild. If he joined Jonah, he would certainly receive respect and be treated well while working. And if he wanted to develop, joining a guild was a wise choice. Even so, Chae-hoon, I'm still a bit concerned. Isn't a deal between a guild and a minor technically illegal? Facing his naive question, Sung-eun just smiled excitedly. Regaining her usual composure, she asked if he had ever heard of the priority negotiation right. I was stunned for a few seconds, his eyes widening. He hadn't expected her to use that right here and now. To him, the priority negotiation right was a special privilege guilds used to support the growth of a conquest rookie who hadn't reached the age of maturity yet. And once that rookie grows up, the guild that supported them gets priority in signing a standard contract. It's an offer that only appears for those labeled as monsters. A genius tire talent. Who would have thought I'd ever receive an offer like this? Before I regressed, even the worst-ranked guilds refused to take me. Seeing Jae-hyun sitting there dazed and motionless, Sung-gun felt confident about her plan. She looked at him with a respectful smile. After all, he still had a surprisingly cute, childlike side. Getting straight to the point, Sung-gun spoke up. We will send the contract to your house once you provide the address. Think it over carefully before deciding. Jae-hyun nodded to confirm, then stood up, signaling for the healing to begin first. Even though he really wanted to join the guild given these conditions, he still had to weigh his options carefully. This was definitely a great opportunity, but there was no need to decide immediately. For now, he'd just focus on the treatment. Preparing for the next step is never too late. Quickly moving closer to Sung-gun, Jae-hyun began the process. All right, I'll start the healing now. Sung-gun replied gently. Sorry to bother you. Even though he had proven himself to both of them, Sung-chae still seemed to hold a grudge. He kept scowling whenever he saw them being friendly. I can't keep up with this pace. Recalling the moment Jae-hyun performed the spell earlier, Sung-chae, though impressed, was still skeptical. I saw the results with my own eyes, so there's nothing to doubt. But how many healers and doctors have we brought in just to treat the guild master? It's a condition that even those who've spent their entire lives in medicine couldn't solve. It wasn't something that could just disappear. On the other side, the healing process had begun. The system notification popped up. Active skill sacrifice has been activated. A wave of magical healing energy flooded into her body. The very next second, a strange sensation suddenly emerged within Sung-eun, making her freeze in surprise. A warm, comfortable feeling slowly spread to every corner of her body. It made her blurt out, "My body is recovering." The paleness on Sung-gun's face gradually faded, making Sung-chae burst with joy. It's actually curable." His eyes stayed glued to the two of them, overcome with emotion. A moment later, Sung-chae bowed deeply, showing the utmost respect to Jae-hyun as a wordless gesture of gratitude. Please forgive what happened earlier. Please take care of our guildmaster. Not surprised by his actions, Jae-hyun kindly empathized. It's all right. If it were me, I wouldn't trust the request of a kid either. Hearing that, Sung-chae felt even more remorseful. I will express my sincere apologies another time. A few minutes passed, and the system finally showed a notification. Congratulations, you have succeeded. Curing the target's illness. Passive skill, emergency first aid, has increased to level 19. Jae-hyun pulled his hand back, satisfied, and said flatly, everything is done. Try moving around. Sung-gun followed his instructions, instantly jumping up and heading toward the window. She greedily soaked in the feeling of relief as the heaviness of the illness that had suppressed her for so long finally lifted. Sung-un gently reached out to welcome the new warmth of the sun in her life. Her whole body trembled. She couldn't hold back the happy tears that gently welled up. All symptoms are gone. Thank you. But won't you be punished for this? Jae-hyun immediately remembered the system's exemption notification. Skill copied with the consumption of 1 blank card. No penalty will be applied. He smiled, reassuring her. It'll be fine. If it happens, you can just heal me again. Hearing his playful remark, Sung-un couldn't help but laugh. Anything as much as you want. Here is my business card. I will do my best to meet your needs. Contact me whenever you want, and please consider the agreement we discussed in a positive light. After hurriedly taking the business card, Jae-hyun stammered, Actually, there is one thing I'd like to ask for help with right now. Time flew by until the next day. A luxurious car belonging to Sung-un slowed to a stop at the roadside. Sung-chae quickly stepped out first and respectfully swung the car door wide open. However, the person who stepped out from the back seat wasn't the woman herself, but Jae-hyun. With a calm demeanor, he stepped out and strode decisively forward. Looking at the surroundings, he wondered, so this is a low-level dungeon owned by the Janhwa Guild through the My-led Academy. It's a place where geniuses gather to compete. If I want to survive there, I have to level up. So the request for help that Jae-hyun mentioned yesterday was to be granted special permission to use the Janhwa Guild's dungeon. Before he went inside Sung, she was even thoughtful enough to prepare some support gear. I have prepared health items and basic tools. Those things will be necessary for conquering the dungeon. As for your equipment, we will lend you some of the guild's spare items. You can use them now. Taking the staff. Jae-hyun nodded in satisfaction, expressing his appreciation. Thank you for looking after me. A bit worried, Sung-chae quickly asked, Will you really be okay? It may be an E-rank dungeon, but entering any dungeon alone is dangerous. Is there any reason you have to go in there by yourself? Fiddling with the staff, Jae-hyun replied casually as if it were nothing. I just want to level up a little bit. Look, I just wanted to level up a little bit, that's all. Sung Jin-woo heard this, and even though he felt increasingly uneasy, he still felt powerless against this stubbornness. To ensure Jin-woo could return safely, he thoughtfully offered a protective item, saying it would be safer if he took this. Looking at the shimmering object in his hand, Jin-woo was incredibly surprised and asked, What is this? He explained its function. It's a teleportation stone. You can return to the guild immediately if you break it, so please use it in case of danger. Please take it. It's a gift to apologize for my rude attitude toward you, and also a thank you gift for healing the guildmaster. I would be very happy if you could accept it. Jin-woo understood his sincerity. Jin-woo happily accepted it, not forgetting to express his gratitude. Unable to wait any longer, he decisively turned and headed into the dungeon, feeling the amount of magic power within. This is definitely an E-rank dungeon. Before going in, he wouldn't have any issues, but Sung Jin-woo still affectionately warned him, Please don't forget, if anything happens inside the dungeon, you must use the teleportation stone. Jin-woo turned his head slightly and responded with a bright smile. Understood. Well then, I'll be heading inside. As soon as he stepped through that door, the system immediately displayed a notification, You have entered the dungeon. However, during the transfer between the two spaces, the system malfunctioned and Jin-woo fell into a dark, boundless void. Countless hands began to emerge, grabbing at his mouth, leaving him panicked. What is happening here? The system finally provided an explanation. Due to a system anomaly, the user has been transported to a special area. Your current location is the land of the dead hell. At the same time, in Sung-un's private office, she was busy handling a pile of administrative work. Having just recovered, Sung-un was spending all her time resolving the unfinished tasks of the guild. Busy as she was, she couldn't help but worry about Jin-woo. That kid, Jin-woo. Will he be okay inside that dungeon? I have a few things I want to ask him immediately. At that time, he had bluntly suggested, Please let me borrow a low-level dungeon owned by the guild. Also, I prefer to enter the dungeon alone. This arrogance made Sung-un extremely worried. Even if it was an E-rank dungeon, for a solo conquest candidate to clear a dungeon alone was almost impossible, even if he had been gifted with extraordinary talent. Hai is still an unpolished gem. It's impossible that the kid doesn't know the reality of it. And to top it off, he even requested to enter a dungeon alone. Thinking of this, the corners of her mouth curled up involuntarily. Interest was clearly visible on her bright face. What kind of plan do you have, I wonder? Just as she was deep in thought, movement came from the door. After 3 knocks, Hana's stern voice spoke up, "Guildmaster." The guildmaster was slightly startled, but very quickly. Sungun recognized the person and smiled, ordering, "Come in, Hana." With permission, Sung Jinwoo's younger sister slowly opened the door and stepped inside. Seeing her, she curiously asked, "Do you have what I requested?" Hana coldly replied, "Here it is." It was the file on Min Jinwoo. Taking the folder, Sungun softly whispered, "Thank you." She began to flip through each page of his information, her every gesture surprisingly cautious. Seeing this appearance of interest, Hana couldn't help but wonder, this is rare for the guildmaster to be spying on someone so personally. The guildmaster must have really seen something special about this kid Jaehyuk. Flipping to the educational background page, the words "newbie warrior class" stood out sharply on the page. Reading every word, Sung-un hastily covered her mouth and shouted in surprise, "He is an applicant for the warrior class. Then how could he use magic?" Seeing something abnormal, she disappointedly closed the file. This action made Hana slightly tense. After a moment of contemplation, Sung-un slowly narrowed her eyes, her entire demeanor exuding an unusual chill. The atmosphere in the room was now extremely tense. The high error rate made Sung-un start to doubt. "Is this information accurate?" Hana hurriedly replied and even asserted firmly, "As long as there are no technical glitches with the machine, it is accurate, no doubt." Hearing that she didn't say anything more, she just gently flipped to check the compatibility. The number 97% left Sung-un fascinated. After a moment of calculating, she unexpectedly made a phone call. As soon as the other person picked up Sung, and instructed, "Hey, when Jinwoo returns from the dungeon, please tell him this immediately. I will be ready whenever he is present, so let's have a meeting." Sung Jinwoo asked curiously, What do you mean?" Sung-un vaguely replied, "I want to personally test the talent that Jinwoo possesses." Returning to Jinwoo's position, he was still struggling with the system malfunction. Due to the system anomaly, the user was transferred to a special area. The current location was the land of the dead Hell. The very next second, Jinwoo was tossed into an extremely strange place, completely different from his original expectations. A dry thud sounded as his back slammed painfully against the ground. When he regained his senses, Jinwoo finally oriented himself. Whether it was bad luck or misfortune, the system had graciously favored him by letting him land in a graveyard in the land of the dead. The dust and smoke around the grave were getting thicker, making Jinwoo hiss in anger for being tossed around. He cursed inwardly, "Damn it, what is going on here?" Right at this moment, a towering shadow appeared right before his eyes. The light gradually faded in making its appearance clearer. Amidst the silent night, in front of Jinwoo now stood a walking skeleton. It wore a loose-fitting cloak with a bow and arrow strapped neatly to its back. The more he looked at it, the more evil it appeared. Its bony hands slowly drew the bow. The next second, it decisively released the string, letting the arrow fly toward Jinwoo's position at a terrifying speed. Sitting dazed on the ground, he finally realized the movement of the opponent. Just before the arrow could strike him, Chae-hun jerked his head to the side, narrowly dodging the danger. He quickly whipped his head around to look toward the source of the attack. The skeleton archer didn't flinch at being discovered. Instead, it boldly stepped forward to confront Chae-hun, raising its bow again and aiming coldly at him. Having inhaled a massive amount of toxic smoke, Chae-hun's body went stiff, leaving him slumped on the ground as he thought to himself, "Is this paralytic poison? This is going to be a real pain." The next second, he activated his skill. The sacrifice skill was triggered. From deep within the thick snow, a pair of horrifying hands thrust upward, and the twisted body of the creature began to emerge. Beneath the silent veil of night, the ghoul crawled slowly across the frozen earth, its hideous eyes suddenly flaring to life, tearing through the surrounding darkness. As soon as the ghoul appeared, it dragged along a countless number of evil entities. They swarmed in to surround the area, rushing straight at Chae-hun while writhing incessantly. Opposite of him, the zombie force had fully gathered from archers to melee warriors. The skeleton archer was the first to strike, firing a shaft violently at him while the poison was still taking effect. But unfortunately, that small arrow was easily caught by Chae-hun's bare hand. He smirked and challenged them seriously. That was a stupid move. At the same time, in her private room, Yu-jung was still sprawled out on her bed in an incredibly lazy pose. Even knowing Yu-jung idolized Sung-un, nobody expected it to reach the point of hanging her posters all over the room. She just lay there muttering, "Min Chae-hun, if you dare to show your face here, I'm actually going to kill you." I know for a fact he's got no sense of direction, and yet he dared to leave me behind. I knew it, he dared to leave me behind, I knew it. He followed me to Sungun's performance all day, so he was being a good boy. How could he dare to play me like that? I really don't understand him at all. A while back, Chae-hun had been very resistant to crowded events like this. "I hate crowded places," she recalled, and Yoo-jung couldn't help but feel confused, as that's what he always said. Yet he suddenly agreed to go with her to the show that day. When he heard about Sungun's lecture, he had replied without a second thought, "I'll be there right away." Furthermore, since they were kids whenever they hung out, Chae-hun would always escort Yoo-jung home no matter how busy he was, but that abandonment the other day hurt her. "What are you doing here? Let's go home." "You always walk me home. So why would he leave me all alone this time?" And it wasn't just that changing his job to a mage. What the hell is up with him? He always said he would pursue the path of martial arts and even trained day and night. If there was any motivation to make him change his path like that, then it must surely be something that outweighs all the effort he put in, right? It's truly, aside from that, there's no other explanation. Min Chae-hun is a person with a very cautious nature. Even when going out for a meal, he would take over 10 minutes just to decide what he wanted to eat. He was that indecisive. And yet, overnight he seemed to become a completely different person. Thinking about this, curiosity in Yoo-jung surged, making her jump out of bed to grab her phone and fire off a text message. "I hope you don't forget about leaving me all alone that day. If you dare to show up, I will definitely finish you." She waited in anticipation, but Yoo-jung didn't know that Chae-hun was struggling alone against a horde of zombies in this land of the dead. I exclaimed tensely, "What the hell is this because of these monsters? I've used everything I've got." At this point, Chae-hun sighed helplessly. 4 zombies plus a skeleton archer and a ghoul, are there really only one of each? No, they are more organized than ordinary gangs. Do I really have to defeat them all by myself? At least I have this. The system immediately displayed the equipped items info. Item name: Beginner's Staff of the Zhonghua Guild. A beginner-level staff forged by a blacksmith of the Zhonghua Guild. Connection successful. I immediately activated the supporting energy inside, pointing the staff straight at the magical beasts. Chae-hun focused his mind, condensed the energy, and fired it off. This place is Helheim, the world of the dead, guarded by Hel, the daughter of Loki. It is one of the 9 realms of Norse mythology. This dungeon is modeled after the 7 realms, excluding Midgard and Asgard. Niflheim, the world of fog and ice. Muspelheim, the world of lava. Jotunheim, the world of giants. Alfheim, the world of elves. Svartalfheim, the world of dwarves. Vanaheim, the world of the Vanir gods. And the coldest, darkest place, Niflheim, is where Helheim exists, a different world. Helheim is a place that is difficult for newcomers to even attack. The terror of facing enemies that are already dead and yet have come back to life is beyond words. But if one lacks divine power, just facing them is already difficult. Thinking of this, Chae-hun couldn't hide his excitement, secretly calculating that this situation was actually even better. If this is the Hima Plains, it'll be a perfect place to test out my new strength. A rank 1 special active skill called Sacrifice, which creates a healing wave that can heal multiple allies at once and remove all negative status effects. When used against undead monsters, it transforms into an offensive skill called Sacrificial Strike, essentially Nora's healing skill, but imbued with a light judgment effect when targeting the undead. It's a powerful area of effect attack called Light Judgment. After a moment of thought, Chae-hun gears up for a counterattack. In the first second, he parries an incoming arrow with a physical strike. A zombie roars in fury, then aggressively raises its sword to slash at him. But with agility a cut above, Chae-hun drives his staff into the creature's chest. The blow, while only moderately powered, is enough to throw the zombie off balance and send it tumbling backward. As he fights, he keeps calculating. Still, he doesn't want to rely solely on that kind of offensive skill, so he immediately summons his familiar light chain. Having defeated a ghoul and gained 70 EXP, he's just finished off the zombies when another horde of monsters swarms in. Despite the overwhelming odds, he doesn't flinch. Chae-hun immediately spins around, twirling his staff in the air to dodge while activating his weapon's attack mechanism, though he feels a pang of anxiety. I have 0 experience acting as a mage, but in a split second I've managed to master summoning a giant light chain to deal with these guys. Using the momentum, Chae-hun swings his body, dragging the glowing chain in a wide arc, knocking down the horde of monsters. The system constantly chimes with good news: defeated 2 ghouls, gained 140 EXP. Successful in his first coordinated attack. Chae-hoon excitedly says to himself, I can't pass up an opportunity like this. Hai then uses his melee combat skills, launching himself through the pitch-black night. At his current level, this is totally feasible, but the staff... Now Chae-hoon uses it with such skill and flexibility, it's no different from a sharp sword. He lands right in front of a skeleton archer. He swings the staff with a thunderous strike straight at the opponent, but because the force is too great, the weapon shatters instantly without him even noticing. It broke. Less than a minute later, the system notifies defeated a skeleton soldier, gained 50 EXP. The entry-level staff from the John Kwa Guild has been destroyed. Holding the piece of wood, Chae-hoon panics. Damn it! He absent-mindedly recalls how he's been fighting since the beginning. Since he's never trained in any combat techniques for a mage, he's stuck to his old habits as a seasoned warrior, rushing in and hacking away at every opponent until the staff broke. Only now does Chae-hoon stop to reflect. Come to think of it, how do mages actually fight? There's no more time to ponder. The remaining zombies are already charging in. Facing the crisis, Chae-hoon sighs in frustration. Seriously. This isn't the time to play it cool or try to farm EXP. I just broke a weapon. Well, the result won't change anyway. Thinking is doing. Hai waves his hand to activate the new combat mechanism. He triggers the active skill Sacrifice. High above in the quiet dark sky, a circle of light suddenly appears. Information updates constantly. The system is scanning the number of zombies on the field, converting Sacrifice into an offensive skill. Activated active skill, Light Judgment. A thunderous explosion echoes. A blinding stream of light suddenly descends from above, living up to its name, Death's Judgment. Defeated zombie gained 100 EXP. A destructive power sweeps through, crushing everything around it into hundreds of scattered pieces. The space shakes violently, reeling from the sheer fury. Defeated ghoul gained 70 EXP. After the battle, Chae-hoon sits exhausted on the ground, waiting for the notification. You have leveled up. As he recovers his health, he feels a strange change coming over his body. He smiles to himself and mutters, this couldn't have happened at a better time. If I hadn't leveled up right now, there might have been danger. Is Light Judgment an S-rank skill? It's much more than the description says. A mage's special skill. Next time, if I didn't have this, I wouldn't be lucky enough to escape. But wait, is this a dungeon transfer? No, that's not it. John Kwa wouldn't send me into a dungeon without checking things like that. The phenomenon of suddenly being transported elsewhere. A second later, the system immediately alerts him. Current location, the deadly fields of Hima. Chae-hoon mutters in annoyance. The Nonia system that's clearly caused by that thing. God, this is so annoying. Should I use a return stone? Just as he is busy thinking, a chill runs down his spine from behind. Sensing the anomaly, Chae-hoon immediately goes on high alert. He turns his head to look and softly speaks. What is this? What is that terrifying mana? Something is coming. A horrific pressure directly envelops the entire space, including Chae-hoon. He gasps, clutching his throat. Damn it, I can't breathe. What is this? What is heading toward me? But one thing is clear, and that is, not just his breath, but Chae-hoon's hearing starts to fade. He struggles trying to think. I can't make even the smallest sound. I have no idea what is coming. For now, I have to stay quiet. After a while, that haunting aura washes over him again, leaving Chae-hoon no choice but to pay attention. This is a shadow. He hurriedly turns to look. Horror is etched in his eyes. In front of him is a creature of colossal size, carrying an incredibly evil aura. It is curling up from the ground. The system immediately updates. The boss of the dark dungeon has appeared. Level gap between the boss and the user is dangerous. Warning. Escape the dungeon immediately. Looking at this urgent notification, Chae-hoon has to accept his fate. I can't beat this thing. I was planning to use the warp stone to escape immediately, but my storage pouch suddenly vanished and I screamed in panic. The pouch was right behind the dungeon boss, which was silently closing in, its face twisted with murderous intent, though for just a split second. That massive figure disappeared into the night, but in those final moments before the pouch was snatched away, I managed to grab the warp stone. Just then, the dungeon boss's aura suddenly erupted right beside me. Before I could even react, it struck, and the warp stone was knocked right out of my hand. I took the full force of that brutal attack, my body limp slamming against the cold cliff wall nearby. That horrific impact had completely shattered what little strength I had left. With my final breath, I grit my teeth and muttered, "Damn it all." A second later, the system flashed a warning, HP at a critical low. Use a recovery item immediately. Now I was completely at its mercy. The dungeon boss stared me down, never blinking for a second. Swallowing the pain, I bit my lip as the monster slowly closed the distance. It kept getting closer and closer, and without a moment's hesitation, it swung its razor-sharp claws, lunging straight for me again, staring death in the face. There was nowhere left to run. I completely gave up, accepting that this was an unavoidable end. I squeezed my eyes shut, waiting for the pain, but the air around me stayed strangely silent. I opened my eyes. The boss's sharp claws had stopped just inches from my face. The tips of its claws seemed to be swallowed by a thick, dark veil stripped of all color. Witnessing this eerie sight, I couldn't help but gasp. What? The darkness. It stopped moving. Just then, a smooth, gentle voice spoke up, commanding, "You are not permitted to do that. I have brought an important guest myself. That would be you, the one destined to change everything." The moment she appeared, her dark, enchanting allure left me momentarily dazed, and I thought to myself in curiosity, "Who is this woman?" I glanced at the dungeon boss standing frozen beside me and asked warily, "Did you do this?" Looking at my miserable, tattered state, she just laughed mockingly. "I thought the one destined to change everything would be able to defeat this thing. You're just a kid, aren't you? Your physique is pretty average and your mana levels are decent enough, I suppose, but not enough to face the gods of Asha. Why would Loki choose a brat like you to be the one to change things?" Being handled like a piece of merchandise by her left me feeling deeply uncomfortable. Damn it, I don't know if it's because I've lost too much blood. I think I'm starting to lose my mind. Her fingernail lightly grazed my pale neck, then she gave a cold, light scratch. I shuddered as the warm blood began to trickle out. Is this the end for me? No. If I die here, everything I've calculated until now will be for nothing. For nothing, the plan to avenge my father, my dream of becoming a skilled mage. Everything would go down the drain. I have to make it through this no matter how. After inspecting me for a long while, she seemed satisfied and spoke up. Even so, I really do like your eyes. But kid, you are too weak and the apocalypse is drawing very near. You have to become stronger and you have to do it faster. If you fail, and we all end up in hell, I will be the first one to finish you off. Her hand tightened around my throat, making the little oxygen left even scarcer. I tried to clench my teeth and fight back, but in my heart I was already cursing her. Damn it, who is this woman? Before I could say a word, she continued her monologue. You are very important to us. So I will give you a chance to become stronger, much, much stronger than you are now, and defeat that darkness. Saying this, she glanced at the monster that was still frozen stiff beside us, signaling it to comply. See to it that it happens. I will give you a very special gift, but as I said, you don't have much time. As soon as she finished speaking, the system updated with a new challenge. The first main quest had appeared. Received main quest, the challenge of the goddess. She seriously laid out the condition, you have 2 months to defeat that darkness. Following her command, the system displayed the mission details. Main quest, the challenge of the goddess. The goddess of sovereignty Hema has issued you a challenge. Defeat the darkness within the allotted time to receive the goddess's recognition. Difficulty, C. Reward goddess's favor. Time remaining 59 days, 23 hours, and 59 minutes. Penalty for failure, death. She released her grip on my neck, but a second later the grotesque monsters swarmed me like hungry beasts. She gave a half-joking warning, don't forget. If I see that you haven't become even a little stronger, I will kill you myself. Child chosen by Nonian, I pray you succeed in this battle. As her words faded, she vanished into thin air, leaving me in the empty, dark space. As my consciousness began to drift into a dreamlike state, I once again saw the faint silhouette of a goddess. Her voice echoed softly, seeping into my mind like warm, soothing words no matter the time. He slowly opened his eyes after a brief blackout, glancing vaguely at the familiar surroundings before murmuring, Am I at the dungeon entrance? Assessing his current location, he quickly sat up, his mind still reeling from the battle. Touching his healed stomach, he frowned in confusion. The wound, it's completely gone. Did that woman do this? What on earth is she? She definitely isn't human. But when he checked the system info, the mission details were still counting down, leaving him stunned. So, it wasn't a dream. Struggling to recall the woman's face, he finally identified her. Hel, the goddess of death. Ruler of Helheim, one of the figures from Norse mythology. Shihun was still dazed, whispering to himself that he'd met a goddess, remembering how Hel had looked at him and mused, Born to be the changemaker, huh, Loki? To think you'd choose a brat like him as the changemaker. Her words were seared into his brain. The changemaker. Chae-hun immediately linked it to the critical system message. From this moment on, you are the changemaker of Asia. I've heard something like that before, right after I got the system. Or was it everything is so blurry? Why did I regress? What is this changemaker she keeps talking about, and what does she actually want from me? Regardless, one thing was clear. He had to get stronger. If everything she said was true, the moment he stopped improving, she would surely destroy him. Defeating the knight within 2 months wouldn't be easy, but having a goal was a start. Still, his current situation was far from ideal. Given his amateur combat skills, he was walking death. He wasn't used to fighting as a mage, and he hadn't even learned any low-level spells yet. To get further, he needed a foundation. Thinking of potential support, he turned his sights toward the Zhonghua Guild and the person he could rely on, Sung-un. As soon as he opened the chat screen, an automated greeting popped up from Sung-un. Hello, this is Manager Sung-un. I'm messaging you to say that guild leader Yu Sung-un wants to meet you in person. Are you free tomorrow? She wants to give you her answer regarding the contract she proposed. Seeing the message, Chae-hun chuckled excitedly. Perfect timing. He quickly hit reply. See you tomorrow. I have a pretty positive view of this contract, suddenly remembering something important. A sly smile crept across his face, and he immediately sent a follow-up. But if you could do one more thing for me, that would be even better. Time flew to the next day. Chae-hun arrived at the guild as promised. He couldn't help but admire the Zhonghua Guild logo. It was carved with incredible precision right in the center of the lobby. Sung-un was there to meet him and quickly led him to the office. At first, he was surprised they had reached out first, but after calming down, he guessed why they had likely seen his awakening profile, a mage with a 97% aptitude. You could search the entire world and still struggle to find someone with that kind of potential. The reason I became a warrior, even though it didn't suit me, it was all my own indecisiveness. Everyone around me, even the people on TV, just glorified martial arts and looked down on mages. So back then, choosing that path actually made sense. NBC, I hope you go bankrupt soon. The two moved down to the basement. Seeing the scene ahead, he was momentarily stunned. Hearing footsteps, Sung-un turned around and called out, "You're here! I've been waiting for you." Freed from that monstrous illness, she radiated a vitality that made everyone stare. She looked completely different from the pale, sickly person she used to be. Seeing Sung-un looking so healthy, Chae-hun was surprised, but he quickly replied, "Hello, Madam Guild Leader. It's a pleasure to see you again." As soon as they met, she went straight to business. "What did you think of that contract?" "The terms are quite good, actually." He silently marveled at the special benefits. The terms were indeed excellent, an unlimited monthly salary and B-rank equipment provided by the guild. If the gear broke, he didn't have to pay for it, and dungeon raid profits would be split 80-20 with the guild depending on his contribution. It was a contract filled with benefits usually reserved for A-rank conquerors. Thinking of this, Chae-hun hesitated, feeling a bit embarrassed. He hinted, "I did talk to manager Park Sung-un about it, but before I sign, I have one condition." Hearing that, Sung-un beamed. "Of course, why not? What is the condition? Tell me, I'm listening." Seeing her anticipation, Chae-hun didn't beat around the bush and directly expressed his concern. "I'm saying this assuming you've already seen my profile, but I switched my career path from warrior to mage less than a month ago, and because of that, I'm not quite used to using spells yet, so my condition is..." Instead of jumping to conclusions about whether to personally teach Chae-hun magic or to hear his heart's desires, the guildmaster Sung-un simply stood there in deep thought for a moment. On the other hand, Chae-hun felt a bit tense. A survivor's first rule for a conqueror is that your trump card must be saved for the most critical moment. This is how Sung-un saw it. Chae-hun was also silently sizing up the man. He'd had this thought the very first time they met. He really is incredibly unique. Their guild master, who is also the owner of the Scavenger Guild, is one of the few rare S-rank conquerors in this world. Yet he didn't hesitate to ask someone like that to teach him. Seeing Sung-un still hesitant, Chae-hun added a condition to his agreement. "I agree to sign the contract with the Scavenger Guild as previously discussed." Only then did she speak up with excitement. "That is a truly interesting proposal. Very well, I accept. I'm quite curious to see what you can actually do." Having easily secured her approval, Chae-hun was overjoyed. He didn't forget to respond with gratitude. "I look forward to your guidance from now on." Sung-un shrugged lightly and replied, "The pleasure is mine, but first, I want to test your aptitude. Would that be all right?" Hearing this, he just thought indifferently that he had already anticipated this would happen. As for the scavenger guild, they certainly wanted to know exactly how capable he was. While on the other hand, Sung Chae was incredibly nervous. Through Sungun's expression, he had already silently calculated the situation. With the expression our guildmaster has, I must make sure everything is perfectly prepared. Returning to the conversation between the two, Chae-hun asked coolly, "You mean you want to test my strength, right?" She just smiled brightly and confirmed, "That's right." Hearing that, he also urged her, "What do I need to do?" As soon as he finished his sentence, Sung-un snapped her fingers. With just that one small gesture, a violent surge of mana suddenly erupted, swirling into a terrifyingly explosive vortex. After the perfect demonstration, she smirked challengingly, "You must overcome this mana block." Looking at the powerful mana swirling before his eyes, Chae-hun gasped in shock and blurted out, "You said that's a mana block." Seeing the look of bewilderment clearly on his face, she smiled faintly and expressed her challenge. "What do you think? It's beautiful, isn't it? For someone talented enough to sign such a good contract with the Scavenger Guild, you should at least be able to do this much, contrary to the others' expectations." Chae-hun was now feeling immense pressure. Typically, a mana block is used by at least a B-rank mage to better understand their sensitivity to mana. Since I'm still not used to being a mage, this is a difficult test indeed. The number of conquerors who can overcome a mana block is probably about 7% of the awakened mages in the world. Can I actually do this? Thinking this, he spoke slowly, probing her. "Sounds like you're trying to discourage me, don't you think?" Sungun calmly explained. "Why would I do that? Even if you fail, it won't be a problem for the contract. The terms will remain unchanged. As the guild master of the Scavenger Guild, I promise you that. Even so what?" Chae-hun was wagering was his own honor and life. So the more stuck he felt, the more Chae-hun tried to break his own limits. It was unavoidable. "I have nowhere left to retreat. Even if I fail, I am forced to keep moving forward." Seeing him step into position, she backed away and signaled, "Then Sung-chae, please prepare everything necessary," receiving the order. He couldn't help but speak up with concern. "Do you really think this will be okay? Guildmaster, a mana block is something even powerful mages struggle with. Doing this to Chae-hun, who is just a kid, with the sharp eyes of one of the world's top mages, she softly offered an insightful judgment. "Do you think the kid in front of us is just an ordinary kid? It's worth a try anyway." Seeing that the guild master had already made up her mind, Sung Chae had to withdraw his objection and nodded to accept the order. He slowly walked toward the control panel and finished the fingerprint verification in an instant. The mana block began to show fluctuations and Chae-hun unconsciously froze for a few seconds. But his eyes remained fixed on it, unblinking. He had heard of mana blocks before he regressed, but seeing it for real, it was much more powerful than he thought. Unable to wait any longer, Sir Sungun shouted to announce, "Let's begin, shall we? I wish you good results. Give it your all." Following the command, Chae-hun nervously stepped closer to the mana block oscillating in front of him. He stopped to take a long breath to calm his racing heart. A moment later, Chae-hun gathered all his courage and decisively stepped inside. Although it was just a normal aptitude test, he had silently made a high-level determination. Watching Chae-hun's retreating figure, both Sung-un and Sung-chae were incredibly nervous. He boldly expressed his misgivings. "I'm genuinely a bit worried. I completely understand why. You are so interested in him, but he is still just a kid." Although there was some anxiety in her heart and mind, she had great faith placing her bet on Chae-hun. That kid will be able to do it. Briefly surprised, Sung-chae skeptically asked, "Why are you so sure?" Sungun smiled mysteriously, then pointed her finger to signal intuition. The answer was so casual that he was shocked and blurted out, unable to hear clearly, "Huh." Ignoring their doubts and useless worrying, she excitedly asked how long it would take for him to navigate through the mana block and get out. At the same time, Chae-hun was submerged in an endless sea of mana. Looking at the scenery around him, he marveled, whispering, "This is an ocean made entirely of mana. Luckily, I can still breathe normally. I was afraid I'd get mana addiction, though usually in this world, mana is like oxygen. It's essential for using spells or activating skills, but if you're exposed to too much mana for too long, it can weaken your heart and lung function. If it's serious, it could even be fatal. Wasting time here will only do more harm. Maybe the symptoms haven't kicked in yet. Finding a way out is the priority. If I remember correctly, there's only one way to escape a mana block. Find the single connection point to the outside among these whirlpools." With that, Chae-hun poured all his focus into sharpening his senses. "Concentrate. I have to feel the fluctuations of the mana waves amidst these complex intertwining currents. That's the only path leading outside." After a long moment of searching, the thing Chae-hun was looking for appeared. The budding vibration made him a little excited. I can feel a spot that's different. A second later, right next to Chae-hun, a space appeared carrying unusual energy with light glowing from within. It was thick, brilliant, and colorful, making Chae-hun gasp. After observing for a moment, he silently concluded that this was a mana crystal block far more powerful, as if it contained the mana of this entire ocean. Outside, the two were still waiting for the result. Sung-chae hesitated and spoke up. "Chairman, you speak as if you're so sure Min Chae-hun will make it through that mana block." Without a second thought, Sung-un quickly replied, "Of course." Even after hearing the chairman's firm statement, the man still felt uneasy in his heart. "Isn't that asking for too much? It's only been a short while, but everything Chae-hun has shown us so far has been incredibly surprising." Sung-chae then asked, "How long do you think it will take him?" She gave her assessment indifferently. "It took me about 40 minutes, and I'm the fastest in the country, you know." He began to sigh again, his hoarse voice slowly rising right after. "There are only two possibilities here." Sung-gun nodded in agreement. Just then, there was movement above, causing both of them to stare intently. Sung-chae continued his unfinished thought. 1, he fails to break through this mana block. 2, he sets a new record. Watching the mana block fluctuate constantly, she exclaimed with interest, "I think so too. But for some reason, I don't think Min Chae-hun will just give up and leave in despair." Finishing the sentence, Sung-chae nodded in clear satisfaction. While they were chatting, a sudden powerful vibration made Sung-un jump in surprise. She hurriedly shouted, "Mr. Sung-chae over there!" Seeing the other's frantic expression, he immediately looked over to observe the situation. Something appeared right before their eyes, making Sung-chae quickly rub his eyes. Opposite them, the solid mana block had developed several cracks, and they were still showing signs of spreading across the surface. Witnessing this rare sight, he stammered, unable to speak. A crack in the mana block!" Sung-un was stunned with joy. Immediately after, she and the other exchanged glances, understanding each other. Sung-chae immediately reached for his phone to check the time. The number on the screen made him completely terrified. 10 minutes. It's only been 10 minutes and a crack has already appeared. Not daring to look away for even a second, both of them turned back anxiously, waiting for the next anomaly to appear. At this moment, they both shared the same thought. What the hell is going on? After the crack appeared, the inside of the mana block fluctuated violently, as if a core entity was about to emerge, leaving Chae-hun beyond excited. "The mana from this crystal orb feels much denser than the environment outside. Is this the core maintaining this mana block? If so, I just need to smash it and I'll be out. No need to go searching for some exit anymore." Thinking is doing. He threw himself forward with full speed, without a shred of doubt, closing in on the mana block's crystal core. Chae-hun excitedly grabbed it before it could disappear. Holding the crystal tightly in his hand, he didn't hesitate for a moment to crush it into fragments. The instant the core shattered, the mana block fluctuated even more violently. The surrounding space began to shake incessantly. The mana sea surged beneath, causing cracks to spread rapidly along the sides. A corner of Chae-hun's mouth involuntarily curled up when he saw the system notification. Passive skill mana application acquired. At the same time, at the location of Sung-un and Sung-chae with the naked eye, they could easily see the mana block collapsing piece by piece very quickly. The cracking sounds continued in a continuous chain, then were suddenly swallowed by a terrifyingly loud roar. Sung-chae was terrified, blurting out, "Good heavens! Usually only 7% of mages can escape a mana block, and even then it takes them an average of about 3 hours. B rankers take 2 hours. A rankers take about an hour and a half, and S rankers take between half an hour and an hour. But just now, Chae-hun, the one who held the record for the fastest escape from a mana block, is Camilla from the EU Alliance. She is a genius mage who held the Guinness record for 36 minutes, but Chae-hun just broke her record. With 36 minutes having passed upon seeing Jae-hun emerge, he couldn't contain his excitement, rushing over to grab both of Jae-hun's hands and shouting with pure joy. "Incredible, Jae-hun, you only took 10 minutes. You broke out of that mana block in just 10 minutes. Yet being inside that mana block, he hadn't realized how much time had passed, so he asked in surprise, "Wait, what? 10 minutes? Just then Sung-gun stepped forward and called out, "Jae-hun, how on earth did you break out of that mana so quickly?" Hesitantly, he recounted, "Well, I found something inside the mana block. It looked like a crystal bridge, so I just crushed it." Upon hearing this, she lunged forward, shouting in utter shock, "What, you crushed it! You crushed the crystal! That crystal was the core that held all the mana of an awakened's mana block. Even finding it is near impossible for most people, let alone crushing it. To think you could do that. That meant the mana Jae-hoon possessed far exceeded the amount contained within the block." Realizing everything, Sung-un turned away absolutely thrilled. With a grin stretching from ear to ear, he thought, "All right, Min Jae-hoon. With the backing of the Junghwa Guild and me, Yu Sung-un, I swear I will turn you into the greatest mage of all time. Are you ready?" Meanwhile, near the apartment complex where Jae-hoon lived, Yu Jung and his mother were waiting for news. As time ticked by, dragging on the atmosphere between the two became increasingly anxious. Yu Jung grumbled irritably, "He's still not here yet." Jae-hoon's mother added worriedly, "He's so late today. He's not even answering his phone." Just as she finished speaking, a luxurious car suddenly appeared in front of them, seemingly intending to stop right there. Yu Jung quickly noticed something unusual and followed it with her eyes. With a sharp scream, the car stopped right at the curb just as expected. The person stepping out of the car was none other than Sung-jae and Jae-hoon. Watching from the car, Yu Jung shouted in shock, "That car! It looks really expensive. How did Min Jae-hoon end up coming home in that?" His mother couldn't hide her surprise either, stammering, I don't know." From inside, Sung-jae said a gentle goodbye. "I'll see you later, Jae-hoon." Jae-hoon was only focused on the two familiar figures opposite him. He waved, smiling brightly. Jae-hoon's mother waved back, taking the opportunity to probe and ask for news from Yu Jung. "There's no way Jae-hoon would get involved in anything bad, right?" 5 minutes later, Yu Jung sat cross-legged on the bed. Looking at Jae-hoon, with a serious expression, she asked, her voice calm, "So, you're saying that you don't think being a warrior suits you, so you've decided to become a mage, right?" He answered flatly. "That's right. I've already got everything prepared. The paperwork and everything else are all set. Being a warrior now is just too much work." Hearing this, she couldn't hide her skepticism anymore and confronted him directly. "Is this really the same person who just a few days ago said being a mage had no future? Did you eat something bad, or have you finally lost your mind?" Usually Jae-hoon would react sharply, but this time, he just shrugged indifferently and replied, "People's minds are like reeds. They sway back and forth so easily." But Yu Jung still yelled in frustration, "I never imagined I'd hear those words from you." After grumbling for a bit, Yu Jung softened her tone, looking at him with concern. "Are you okay? You've always wanted to be a warrior before. You have more potential as a mage, but you didn't want your mother to suffer anymore. Because no matter how hard a mage works, they barely make any money. Warriors take longer to clear targets and have a higher risk of injury, so they aren't the top choice for clients." Such a filial kid suddenly. Before she could even finish her sentence, Jae-hoon uncomfortably interrupted, "All right, let's not talk about that. Anyway, what are you doing here? Where are your parents? Are they on a business trip again?" Hearing this, she sprawled out on the bed and lazily replied, "Yeah, that's why I came over. Plus, my mom told me to stay the night." Seeing her friend so relaxed, Jae-hoon asked irritably, "Why do you like being here more than your own home? I really don't get you. Why would you want to come to such a tiny place when you have a huge house?" Contrary to his confusion, she just chuckled. "What's so hard to understand about that?" Hearing this, Jae-hoon tried to reflect on the reason. This girl in reality is the daughter of a quite wealthy family. Kim Yu Jung's parents dismantle monster carcasses and sell the parts to different countries. Since monsters vary from country to country, they travel abroad very often. Because of that, there are many times when Kim Yu Jung is left home alone. Since my mom and Kim Yu Jung's dad are quite close, she often comes over to stay. Thinking about the main topic, Jae-hoon tentatively suggested, "Well, since it's already done, teach me some magic theory, please." Yu Jung sat right up and playfully demanded, "Asking for a favor and you're just gonna use words." A rich girl like her asking for a fee from a poor guy like Jae-hoon made him sigh as he asked, "Then what do you want? You have to tell me so I know if I can actually do it." Hearing that, Yu Jung started thinking seriously. "Now that you ask, I realize I've never even thought about it." Jae-hoon just had to sit there and wait as she mumbled about what she wanted. A wealthy girl like her still demanding favors from someone as poor as Sehun. He couldn't take it anymore and shot back, "Well, what is it that you want? You have to tell me so I can see if I can actually do it for you." Hearing that, Du Trung fell into a serious thought. "Now that you mention it, I realize I've never actually thought about what I want." Sehun was left sitting there waiting for her to mumble on about what it was she was actually looking for. After gaining some clarity, Du-jung flashed a smug smile. She looked at him with eager eyes and blurted out, "Grant me one wish, anything I want, though if you don't like it, you can always say no." Without wasting a second to think, he immediately agreed, "Fine, but it has to have a 1-year limit. If you don't use it within that time, you lose it. Deal." Hearing about the time limit, Du-jung looked annoyed but had to accept it. That's so unfair, but fine, whatever. Everything was part of Chae-hoon's scheme, as he knew that within a year she would definitely forget all about it. Seeing his friend's bright eyes, Chae-hoon teased her slightly. "What are you planning to wish for? You look so serious. And trust me, your face can't get any uglier than it already is." Offended Du-jung yelled in a fury, "What, you're really asking for it, aren't you? All right then. Didn't you ditch me and run off the other day? Fine, let's see how you're going to die today." Saying that, she grabbed a pillow and started whacking Chae-hoon repeatedly, making him snap back. "Hey, is hitting me really necessary just because of that little thing? You're taking this too far." Her reaction was non-existent. Du-jung coldly ordered, "Shut it." Just then someone knocked hard on the bedroom door. Chae-hoon's mom called out loudly, "Kids, come down for dinner." At that moment, she had just finished the last dish for the feast, her face glowing with happiness. Du-jung paused for a second upon hearing the call, but quickly threw the pillow right at Chae-hoon's face. He raised his hands to catch it. Still, there wasn't a trace of annoyance on his face because Chae-hoon was busy thinking about something better. Even so, this wasn't too bad. At the same time, in a mysterious A-rank dungeon, a flock of black ravens suddenly grew intensely agitated. They flapped their wings frantically, filling the dark, gloomy space with spine-chilling wailing cries. A dry thwack sound echoed as a cold blade plunged deep into the dungeon monster's head, causing hot crimson blood to gush out endlessly. The person who had just executed that rapid-fire maneuver was none other than Hoojin, the one impersonating Minsungo's father. With just one fatal blow, the dungeon's top-tier monster collapsed at his feet. It didn't even struggle. A moment later, the warrior stepped forward to report, "Sir Min Sungo, we hunted successfully this time, all thanks to you. I really don't remember the last time. We had such an easy hunt. Thanks for those words." Hearing the man's voice, Hoojin turned his head for a second, then coldly pulled his sword back, ignoring the man's irritation. He kept on rambling. "If someone like you, sir, Min, joined our guild, that would be great. Have you ever considered it?" Hoojin said in a low voice, refusing, "Sorry. But for now, I don't have any intention of joining a guild." But the man persisted. "Come on, don't be like that." As he was speaking, Hoojin's warning glare made him hesitate. But for the sake of future benefits, the warrior tried to persuade him, "If it's you, Sir Min, the Scarlet Guild guarantees the best treatment for you." Before he could finish, Hoojin snapped, "How annoying." He had heard him clearly, but the warrior pretended not to and asked again, "Sir." Frustrated by the guy's persistence, Hoojin turned around and unleashed a glare filled with murderous intent. Immediately, thick, viscous, demonic energy surged forward, encircling and binding the warrior. A sphere of destructive energy began to condense in his hand. In a raspy voice laced with sinister intent, he whispered, dark and mysterious, "That shallow greed. It really is the nature of humanity, isn't it? Although humans aren't the only ones like that, are they?" With that, Hoojin instantly vanished into the void, leaving not a single trace behind. The man looked around blankly, whispering to himself, "What was I doing here just now? Returning to the real world." Chae-hoon began his first lesson on the path to becoming the nation's top mage. Once he was warmed up, Sungun said enthusiastically, "Before we start the first lesson, I want to see your intuition and combat reflexes. In other words, we're going to have a spar." Hearing this, he felt a bit tense. His opponent was the president of the biggest guild in the country. "A spar? Isn't that a bit tough right from the start?" Sung-un immediately retorted with a deceptively harmless smile. "I don't think someone who can exhaust their mana pool in 10 minutes should be saying that. Now try to attack me." Chi-hoon slowly analyzed her posture. As expected, she had that same attitude last time. She had intended to do this from the very beginning. In for a penny, in for a pound. He exhaled to calm himself, then immediately took a fighting stance. Seeing Chae-hoon's preparation, Sung-un couldn't help but frown. She silently assessed him. Left foot forward, knees slightly bent, shoulders hunched as low as possible. A stance that made it easy to dodge and maneuver, often used by warriors. Thinking of this, Sung-un suddenly moved. She instantly tilted her body to the right, decisively dropping low. She perfectly dodged Chaehoon's powerful high-altitude punch. Using the momentum, Sung-un moved with incredible speed to grab his fist, which was left hanging in the air. Chaehoon froze for a few seconds. Conversely, she just flashed a smug, faint smile. Not stopping there, Chaehoon decisively yanked his arm out of her control, then used the momentum to push himself backward to maintain distance. Taking this time, he slowly analyzed his opponent's fighting style. I really thought I'd at least land one hit even though she's a healer, so this is the level of an S-rank conqueror. Huh. Sung-un suddenly spoke up. From now on, I'll call you by a nickname Chaehoon. Chaehoon, you said you were originally a warrior, right? She nodded firmly. After a moment of contemplation, she made a judgment. It seems so. You still haven't been able to shake off those warrior habits of yours. How could a mage be reckless enough to charge to the front like that? Chaehoon, tell me what's the biggest difference between a warrior and a mage? Without a second thought, he answered cleanly. Fighting at close range versus long range. Hearing this, Sung-un nodded with satisfaction. Exactly. People with the mage class usually weaken their opponents from a distance before closing in for the finishing blow, but you're constantly trying to close the gap too much. If you keep fighting like that, as a mage with inherently low defense, you're going to lose the battle very quickly. I've been too careless. I think I should get a bit more serious. You also need to see how a real mage fights. This time I'll attack too. Of course I won't hurt you too seriously. Besides, I'm also a healer. I'll fix you right up. Upon hearing this, Chaehoon's mouth twitched involuntarily out of anxiety. As she launched her attack, she said excitedly, I know you've got more than just this, so make it worth my while this time. The energy orb in Sung-un's hand grew larger, forcing Chaehoon to heighten his guard. The very next second, a powerful blast of energy was launched at him. Staying hyper-focused, Chaehoon easily dodged by rolling on the ground to escape the blast radius. Seeing Chaehoon still intact after the attack, Sung-un immediately commanded, your turn. Without hesitation, he activated Radiance. The system updated, active skill lightning chain activated. Then waves of light chains shot out, whistling through the air with immense power, flying straight toward her. A massive explosion rang out and Chaehoon held his breath, waiting for the outcome. But Sung-un's voice cut through, shattering his tiny shred of hope. An A-rank skill and lightning chain at that. You've hidden quite a lot, haven't you? Before she could finish, Sung-un's hands were already deftly summoning ice arrows, which shot straight toward Chaehoon before he could even recover his senses. The speed of the arrows left him stunned. Damn it, too fast! Before he could even finish the sentence, Chaehoon was engulfed in a deafening explosion. Sung-un analyzed with satisfaction, no matter how good the skill is. If you can't hit your target, it's all useless. Don't you think so? Just as the white smoke began to dissipate, his familiar figure emerged. Even though he took the hit head-on, the force was enough for Chaehoon to stand firm. Seeing him, she sighed softly. Goodness. Surprisingly, even with the spell's power reduced, I didn't think you'd still be standing. Then you should be able to handle this too, right? Seeing the barrage of arrows about to strike, Chaehoon didn't flinch. He just stood there, focusing on controlling his breathing. The very next second, he activated Odin's Eye. Opposite him, she triggered her attack. Countless ice arrows raced toward Chaehoon, but his active skill, Universal, was activated. The moment he deployed it, it successfully neutralized Sung-un's attack. The system-updated active skill Holy Arrow has been destroyed. Watching her arrows shatter in the blink of an eye, she couldn't accept it. No way. Could he have thought of a way to counter and destroy my skill in such a short amount of time? Regaining her composure, Sung-un couldn't help but praise him. You truly keep surprising me. How many more surprises are you hiding? Although quite exhausted after that counterattack, Chaehoon still forced himself to speak. I don't know. A second later, the light chain suddenly erupted right beneath Sung-un's feet. She looked over in shock just as the lightning chains were about to touch her. She immediately popped a mana shield to block, successfully deflecting the direction. Even though she escaped, she took quite a bit of damage from the backlash. Plus, I never expected such great power to come from a kid who hasn't even gone through training. Not stopping at the previous counter, Chaehoon switched to the offensive. He poured all his energy into continuously firing light chains at Sung-un, leaving her momentarily overwhelmed. How can that boy use magic without chanting? For a mage, chants are something that always accompanies the use of magic like a fundamental law. Of course, high-level mages can use silent casting at the cost of the spell's power being weakened. But that kid is still a novice at magic, so how on earth is he able to cast magic without chanting? After that non-stop barrage of attacks, Chae-hun was visibly drained. He muttered to himself, "Is nothing working? I'm almost out of mana. She really is a monster." Sung-un, on the other hand, still had plenty of mana to spare. She praised him with amusement. "You really are full of surprises." Chae-hun strained his eyes to keep up with her movements, but it wasn't enough as she vanished right after speaking. A split second later, Chae-hun felt his entire body lifted into the air before he even realized what happened. In the blink of an eye, Sung-un appeared right next to him and slammed him down. She smugly remarked, "You're still so green." As he lay there splayed out on the ground, Chae-hun was left in complete shock. He kept replaying the scene in his head, unable to grasp it. "What just happened?" Sung-un laughed, teasing him. "What's wrong? You didn't actually think you'd win, did you?" With that, she reached out to pull him up, but his mind was still stuck on those last few moments. That final attack, I didn't even see how she pulled it off. Is this really the gap between me and an S-rank conqueror? Seeing Chae-hun's dejected expression, she chuckled to herself. But in truth, Sung-un was deeply impressed by what he had just shown, the close-quarters combat experience he'd gained from wanting to be a warrior. Being able to cast magic without chanting and that insanely fast mana recovery. If it's this kid, maybe he could actually do it. After a moment of thought, she spoke up. "While watching you fight, I had an idea." This made Chae-hun ask back, surprised. "An idea? What kind of idea?" Sung-un shared it boldly. "Everyone has probably thought about this once or twice, but no one has ever pulled it off. A combat style that only you could master. What do you think?" "Interested?" He froze for a few seconds, contemplating it seriously. A combat style that only he could learn, ignoring the fact that Chae-hun was still stunned. She excitedly commanded, "From now on, call me master, and congratulations on becoming my first disciple." Even after getting home just like that, Chae-hun remained lost in thought, ignoring his friend Yu-jung, who was calling his name until her voice grew hoarse. "Hey Min Chae-hun, are you even listening to me?" he replied irritably. "Yeah, I'm listening. How about you swallow your food before you start talking?" Being snapped back at, she would usually scream, but today she was uncharacteristically gentle. "You said you needed them for studying, so I bought them." But still, surprised, Chae-hun looked at the pile of instant noodle cups Yu-jung had already finished and gasped, "Are you not sick of eating those yet? You realize this is your fourth cup, right? Aren't you?" With her mouth still full, she replied nonchalantly, "I'm not sick of it. Every bite is as delicious as the first. Are we done? Let's get back to the main topic." She looked over. Pointing at the blank white paper, Chae-hun had meticulously prepared Combat Magic Enhancement, Magic Healing Magic. Yu-jung began her lecture. Even though there are many different categories, these three are considered the most essential. Seeing the vivid illustrative lesson, he praised her softly. "You're really good at drawing." After listening intently for a while, Chae-hun's meager knowledge expanded. "Your understanding of magic has increased. Your magic efficiency has increased by 5%. Looking at the notification, he thought annoyedly, "Again, every time I achieve something new, this system reports it to me like this. It's like this system is desperate for me to get stronger." Even having reached this point, Yu-jung still couldn't shake her doubts about Chae-hun. "You're pretty impressive. Are you sure you really switched jobs from a warrior? Magic chants that take others a month to learn you pick up in a few days." He answered flatly, "I'm serious." "Didn't you say you remembered those chants in 3 days?" Remembering something, she suddenly shouted and commanded, "I told you to call me teacher." Since he was the one lagging behind, Chae-hun had to bite the bullet and comply. "Yes, teacher, this is so annoying." Hearing his reluctant tone, Yu-jung simmered with frustration. "Why can't I even tell you off? I started learning magic before you, but at this rate it wouldn't take long for you to catch up to me." Suddenly he snapped back. "So what, teacher? Magic just suits me better. My aptitude test already proved that, didn't it?" Remembering Hio's terrifying face and the dangerous mission hanging over his head, Chae-hun couldn't help but shudder. He was the one who should be complaining. His own life was the one at risk here. Getting back to the conversation, Yu-jung calmly reminded him, "I haven't said this before, but do you have any idea how shocked I was when you said you wanted to become a warrior? I'm not saying being a mage doesn't pay well, but how could you waste your talent like that? You have to admit it's incredibly ridiculous, right? You're a mage yourself, so you must know. The way people look at mages nowadays." Facing Yu-jung's reproaches, Chae-hun felt like he was experiencing the shackles of contempt and disdain firsthand. That image appeared again, crushing his spirit. Every word from Hu Jin echoed in his ears, making Chae-hun sink into silence. Did he really truly want to choose this path? Lost in the vision, he waited for Yu-jung to cut through it. "Hey, are you even practicing your magic casting?" Snapping back to reality, he quickly replied, "Yes, but I'm learning from a different teacher." His hollow answer made her lose her temper again. "Are you not using honorifics again?" Hearing that, Chae-hun hurriedly corrected himself. "Yes, ma'am, I am." Even so, he still wasn't quite clear-headed after that fleeting vision. What was that just now? Was I just imagining it? He felt like he heard something strange. The more he thought about it, the more Chae-hun felt a chill. Hio's booming warning flashed through his mind again. 2 months. You have to defeat that guy within that time. Because of that. Chae-hun urged himself on. Now is not the time to lose focus. Let's think about something more inspiring. For example, I hope that pill will be a huge help to hunters all over the world. Like a precious pill that can help me overcome those obstacles. At the same time, at the guild's special training ground, Song Chae-hun was carrying out his duty, monitoring the members' intense training. He slowly observed their every move, and whenever he spotted a mistake, Song Chae-hun would immediately point it out. "Hunter Baek Jujin, you have to watch your hips when you swing your sword. Hunter Kangjina, your spellcasting is too slow. Your teammates will die if your healing magic doesn't reach them before you face the enemy. Focus." At the same time, Sung-un was also present on the field, responsible for key training for the guild. Walking up to her, he reported on the situation. "The rookies aren't bad. Their average level is a bit better than last year, chairwoman." Startled by Song Chae-hun's voice, Sung-un muttered, "Sorry, I was a bit distracted just now." He suddenly probed, "Are you thinking about Min Chae-hun?" Mentioning his name, she chuckled. "You really can't hide anything from you, can you?" "You guessed right." Leaning back, Song Chae-hun said calmly, "If I remember correctly, what you're planning to teach Chae-hun is something many hunters have tried, but no one has ever succeeded at, right, Sung-un?" Sung-un shrugged and asked back, "You've seen Chae-hun's talent with your own eyes, haven't you?" He nodded in confirmation. "True. One could even believe he's a veteran. There wasn't a single wasted movement. Thinking about that talent," she stated firmly. "If another S-rank mage appears in the future, it will definitely be Chae-hun. I am currently still the only mage of S-rank in this country. Even so, as a healer, my combat capability is a bit low. However, if a star suddenly appears, like a rising star such as Chae-hun, what then? That would shake the entire magic world." A little more about the mana booster pill. Just as the name suggests, it is a pill that permanently increases mana for the awakened who consume it. And it is an item that every mage craves. Right now, Chae-hun was trying to brew that very medicine himself, but looking at the thick liquid emitting a scent, intense and pungent before him, he involuntarily felt a chill run through his body, frustrated that it still hadn't succeeded. Chae-hun threw the ladle in his hand, cursing incessantly. "Damn it, hell! How many times has it been like this now? I've already used up 3 sets of ingredients. If this keeps up, all my money will vanish. I'm certain the solution is supposed to turn white at the beginning stage. Who can I even ask about this?" After grumbling for a while, he still had to sit there diligently watching the fire in disappointment. In November of 2020, in the present, no one knew how to create a mana booster pill yet. It will be 5 years until this pill is invented, which means I am the first person to know the necessary ingredients and the steps to create it. Before returning to the past, the formula for the pill was shared publicly by a world-class alchemist. When making the formula public, that person also added, "I hope this pill will be the greatest help to the majority of hunters in the world." Thinking of this, Chae-hun couldn't help but complain, "If it stays like this, it won't be effective. Instead, it would be better to find another more effective way." But then, a crazy idea flashed through his mind. Why not track down Lee Chae-sang? If anyone could create that pill, it would be him. Surely he could pull it off. And even if he couldn't come up with the miracle cure in the end, building a relationship with him would still be worth it. Thinking it, he did it. Chae-hun hurriedly threw on his coat set to head out and meet him. "Wait, isn't that guy not a senior but still a freshman at Milek's Academy? In that case, I know where I'm headed. Milek's Academy." A moment later, a light knock sounded at the door. His mom had just arrived home and happily called out her son's name, Chae-hun, but the scene that greeted her, the absolute mess, made her scream in terror. Chae-hun's mom stared in confusion at the blackened pots and pans he'd left behind. What on earth happened here? Should she call the police? She didn't think it was a break-in. Is there really a thief out there who specializes in just trashing kitchens? As she pondered this, she grabbed a frying pan ready to duel the intruder if they were still around. Chae-hun was on his way to Milek's academy completely unaware of the chaos he'd left in his wake. I was too focused on memories from his past life. Right when the world tree appeared and monsters started swarming, only a few people were able to train themselves at lightning speed. One of them was the sword saint, Lee Chae-shin, the first awakened one who vanished without a trace. The appearance of Lee Chae-shin was like he had snatched away the title of the strongest awakened. He became the first S-rank conqueror in Korea. The person I need to meet right now is his youngest son, Lee Chae-sang. Standing at the ticket counter, the clerk asked, "May I ask where you're heading?" He replied in a low voice, "I want to go to the portal to Daegu." Daegu is currently abandoned due to the monster outbreak, a city crawling with monsters in every corner. And you have to worry about your life every single step you take. That's the situation in Daegu, yet there is still one reason people go there. Hearing this, she gasped in surprise. "Are you a student at Milek's academy?" Chae-hun replied awkwardly, "No, I'm just a future student." In no time, he arrived at his destination. Looking at the massive academy before him, Chae-hun thought to himself, if I walk a little further, I'll reach the main gate, Milek's. A place familiar from my youth and a place filled with terrible memories. But none of that matters now. Time to head in, I guess. No time left for nostalgia. This area isn't safe. It seems some monsters that haven't been wiped out are still lurking around. Walking into the academy, he strolled leisurely. Thanks to his temporary ID, he was allowed entry. Pausing for a second, he calculated where could Lee Chae-sang be right now. Even though he's in the combat department, he doesn't have any talent. It seems Lee Chae-sang, someone who hates fighting, has dragged Milek's combat foundation to an all-time low. The more he thought, the more Chae-hun wondered where to find him. Finally, he decided, I'll just check around the classrooms first. He had only taken a few steps when the noisy commotion nearby made him stop. He hurriedly glanced in the direction of the sound, curious to check it out, and took the chance to eavesdrop on the conversation. "Hey, shouldn't we stop them? Stop them, are you crazy? What are you going to do if you get into trouble just for helping that stutterer? My grades are already low enough this semester." Hearing this, Chae-hun muttered, "That stutterer." He already had an image of the person in his head, but given his current status, Chae-hun was a bit hesitant. A little noise probably won't hurt, right, he thought, then brushed past the person next to him and headed straight inside. He scanned the situation and slowly, thinking no one else is going to step in anyway. Because of that, Chae-hun picked up his pace. As soon as he opened the door, he ran into Chae-sang. Chae-hun quickly reached out to catch him before he hit the ground. As he stood up, Chae-sang blurted out in a panic, his face filled with fear, I'm sorry." Chae-hun didn't reply right away. He just glared at the bully. Stung by his gaze, the guy challenged him, "Who the hell are you? What business do you have with our little stuttering buddy here?" Without answering, he turned to check on Chae-sang. He was indeed in a very unstable state. His breathing ragged as if he were terrified of something horrible. When Chae-sang looked up at Chae-hun, his tear-filled eyes said it all. On the contrary, Chae-hun exclaimed with excitement, "Found you. He really is Lee Chae-sang." Meeting for the first time, both stared at each other for a long moment as if they felt a certain connection. Chae-hun slowly asked, "Hey, are you okay?" Feeling concern for the first time, Chae-sang wasn't used to it and asked back, "Huh, who?" Right then the bully stepped up, nudged his shoulder, and asked loudly, "Are you the little brother of this stutterer? I didn't know he had a brother. You two don't look alike at all. I mean, he never talks about his family, so I thought the monsters wiped them all out. But look, we're having a serious conversation with your brother here, okay? If you don't want trouble, you should wait outside." Before he could finish, Chae-hun shoved the guy's filthy hand off him. Offended by the rejection, the bully frowned. He looked clearly annoyed. Chae-sang, on the other hand, was terrified, trembling so much that tears were welling up. Ignoring the bully's barrage of questions, Chae-hun just said casually, "You'd better go to the infirmary," pushing the bully aside. Chae-hun watched as the guy, teeth gritted in pure frustration, roared, "You little prick! I'm talking to you like a decent human being. Are you deaf? Or are you just looking to die?" Facing the bully's savage outburst, Chae-hun didn't even flinch. Instead, he glared back coolly, warning, "That's the second time you know." The tension between them spiked. Chae-sang stood there paralyzed, not knowing how to intervene. Chae-hun muttered, "Why does everyone love grabbing my collar these days?" He pointed at the bully's wrist, recalling the lessons Do-jung gave him on using magic. Get a clear image in your head, calculate the magic formula, construct the curse, and chant. That's the foundation of magic. Visualize exactly what you want like an arrow of light shooting out. Now try attacking. The very next second, the system notification flashed. Active skill spirit arrow activated. Right where Chae-hun pointed, a magic circle manifested, locking onto the bully's arm and freezing it in place. A faint, sickening crack echoed through the air. It was loud enough for all three to hear. The bully's eyes rolled back, teeth clenched against the searing pain. After spitting out a mouthful of bile, he let out a piercing scream. Chi-sang watched, stunned, completely lost. No way! Did he just use a curse? Without even chanting. The crowd gathered around, started whispering frantically. What the hell? What just happened? Forget that. Did anyone actually see what he did? How is that even possible? Was that really spirit arrow? How could it break the arm of such an experienced warrior? Maybe it's just because the guy is weak. He's always bragging like he's some big shot. Hearing the insults, the bully's rage intensified, bordering on a desire to kill. Chi-hun thought to himself, if this keeps up, my reputation will. I don't know where you crawled out from, you bastard, but I'm not letting you off the hook. The bully lunged with a furious shout. Before he could finish his threat, he charged. Chae-sang screamed, "Watch out!" But the attacker was already mid-strike. A dagger swung viciously toward Chae-hun's throat. In that critical second, Chae-hun activated Demon's Eye, triggering the counterattack mechanic. Simultaneously, he recalled Sungun's training. To create a shield, wrap your mana around your body to deflect the impact. Visualizing the technique, Chae-hun put it into practice. Active skill, mana shield, activated. In a flash, the sword was knocked from the bully's hand, spinning through the air before clattering behind him. The force that repelled the blade was Chae-hun's immovable mana shield. The bully froze, trembling in genuine terror. Seizing the momentum, Chae-hun moved. His hand shot out like a vice, clamping onto the bully's face. Choking off his air supply, Chae-hun stared coldly into the man's bulging, panicked eyes. He leaned in close and growled, "Are you done yet?" Even after being beaten to a pulp, the bully was still struggling, mindlessly cursing under his breath. You psycho!" Not giving him a chance to say another word, Chae-hun decisively triggered Spirit Arrow. The direct, high-impact blast was more than enough. The bully passed out immediately, physically and mentally drained. Thud. The bully's body hit the ground like a sack of potatoes. Chae-hun just stood there, dusting his hands off with total indifference, as if he'd just finished a chore. It was like taking out the trash. Chae-sang, however, was still gawking, his jaw on the floor. Who on earth is this guy? Now finally he had a chance to talk properly. But when Chae-hun's icy gaze swept over him, Chae-sang's heart skipped a beat. Chae-hun broke eye contact and calmly walked over to the bully, looking down at the unconscious heap. Chae-hun muttered, "Did I overdo it? Or is he always like this? Oh well, I didn't buy this for something like this anyway. But whatever." The moment Chae-sang saw the vial in Chae-hun's hand, his eyes lit up. "Is that?" Chae-hun slowly popped the cap and poured the liquid onto the bully's face. Chae-sang watched in pure shock. Chae-sang didn't even dare to blink, terrified he'd miss a miracle. The potion took effect instantly, the angry red wounds on the bully's face, recovering so magically that you could actually see it happening with your own eyes. Chae-hun clicked his tongue and said casually, "Don't know who brewed this stuff, but it's pretty effective. Shall we go now? Let's head to the nurse's office." Chae-sang just stood there, still dazed, watching him with a mix of fear and confusion. Chae-sang trailed behind as Chae-hun began walking away. At the corner of the stairs, Chae-sang finally found his voice. "Hey you, the nurse's office isn't that way." Chae-hun stopped, his voice flat. "You don't seem that famous around here, so I guess nobody would hear us, huh?" Chae-sang didn't understand what he meant, but his guard went straight to the roof. He hung his head, thinking, "I knew it. He only sought me out because he knows who I am." Unable to contain his curiosity any longer, Chae-sang asked, Were you sent by my father?" Seeing the defensive posture, Chae-hun realized something was off. It seemed like the guy had completely misunderstood the situation. "You don't need to be on guard anymore." Seeing this, he dropped his mysterious act and replied warmly, "How would I know who your father is?" But that still wasn't enough to lower Chae-sang's guard. He muttered to himself, his eyes still clearly suspicious. Though still doubtful, he wanted to know the reason. "Then why did you come to me?" Sensing his chance, he eagerly asked for help. "There is something I need you to do for me." Chae-sang paused for a few seconds, then asked in surprise, "Help you?" He quickly explained, "Yes, if you could make a certain potion for me." Before he Chae-sang recoiled in fear. A potion. I don't know how to make something like that. In response, Chae-hun calmly reached into his bag, preparing to pull out something important. Yes, you do. I know all about it. Alchemy. You are the one who listed that poison on the black market, aren't you? Caught off guard. Chae-sang's eyes widened in horror. How could he? He quickly covered his mouth before revealing any more clues. How on earth did he find that out? It was impossible to trace him through the black market. Seeing the other's defensive attitude, Chae-hun felt sympathetic. Can I really read his thoughts? No way. Even if he did trace it from the black market, it wouldn't be wrong. The black market is a trading system that completely conceals the user's identity even for sales. Items are registered on the black market with both quantity and price. Every item sold there is processed through the ESR system, so the security is extremely tight. If it weren't, I wouldn't have considered selling this eye in the first place. Though that was a pointless thought. He stopped his train of thought and glanced at Chae-sang's expression, catching him peeking back. Chae-sang tried to look away, but Chae-hun saw it all. Anyway, it's a good thing the Noya system works properly on the black market, otherwise I couldn't have bought the poison. It wouldn't be resolved this easily otherwise. He then held out the potion bottle and confirmed one more time. It's the one you made, right? Chae-sang adamantly denied it. I don't know what you're talking about. But Chae-hun saw right through him. You're a terrible liar. I understand why you'd want to pretend you don't know, but I don't have much time left. At that moment, Chae-sang was anxious about the decision he made when he successfully brewed the potion. He hadn't thought twice about registering anonymously on the black market, recalling that moment. Chae-sang thought to himself, did I make a mistake by listing the poison on the black market? I needed the money, but I never thought it would turn out like this. Faced with whether to admit or deny it, he couldn't help but hesitate, fearing exposure. He tried to convince himself, don't admit it. If Dad finds out, it'll be a huge mess, no matter what I have to do it. But his actions completely betrayed his thoughts. He whispered pleadingly, please keep this a secret from others, realizing the others' unease. Chae-hun gently placed a hand on Chae-sang's shoulder to reassure him, his voice firm and steady. I'm not using this to threaten you or anything. He placed the potion bottle in his hand and kindly expressed his desire. I am just in dire need of a talented alchemist, someone who can make the medicine I want. Hearing that recognition, he couldn't hide his emotion. A talented alchemist. He doesn't look like he's lying. Is he really not the person my father sent? After thinking it through, Chae-sang finally let his guard down. Who exactly are you? Only then did Chae-hun have a chance to introduce himself. I am a prospective student enrolling in the Mylith Academy. You can call me Min Chae-hun. He squeezed the potion bottle in his hand. Chae-sang felt somewhat relieved and walked straight toward the workspace. He spoke calmly, first I will listen to your story. Very quickly they moved inside to a place private enough to talk without being overheard. Look around, Chae-hun exclaimed quietly. The atmosphere in this workshop is amazing. It was the first time someone had complimented him. Chae-sang was embarrassed. Thank you. After that, the two sat there looking at each other, neither wanting to start. Unable to stand the uncomfortable silence, I took the initiative to speak first, despite his trembling. So about the potion you want to make. Chae-hun smiled slightly. A special potion that enhances magic power. It's a special potion that can permanently increase magic right. Hearing the effect, Chae-sang jumped up in surprise, quickly verifying because even he didn't know it was that miraculous. Permanently increase? Is that even possible? I didn't answer immediately, but muttered to himself in agreement. Of course it is. This is something made by Li Jigong himself, after all. Chae-sang's voice softened. To permanently increase magic power, to get an effect like that, what kind of ingredients would I need to use? Mandragora, root or water from the spring of Jotunheim. No, that's not enough. Seeing the other's expression, Chae-hun paused for a few seconds. The atmosphere had changed. I was no longer stuttering, and he even grasped the necessary effects. He could already deduce most of the necessary ingredients. As expected, this person is truly talented. I must win him over to my side. Suddenly remembering there were others in the room, he instinctively shrank back and sat down on the chair. Chae-sang said dejectedly, but if it's a potion with that kind of power, maybe you should ask another alchemist instead. Before he could finish, Chae-hun enthusiastically interrupted, his voice firm and decisive. No, I want to ask you for help with this, senior. I'll provide everything you need. Of course, once the formula is out, other mages might be able to brew this special potion too. But for someone with overwhelming talent like Chae-sang, others, How could they even compare? If you're going to invest, you should invest in him. Seeing Chae-sang's hesitation, Chae-hun tried to convince him further, "You'll help me, right?" Hearing this, he finally agreed. "I understand. Whether it'll actually work, I don't know either." But Chae-hun quickly assured him, "It's fine, even if it fails." Chae-sang asked, doubtfully, "Are you really okay with that? If it fails, you're the only one who loses out." Yet Chae-hun just said firmly, "I decided to invest in you, senior, because I believe in you. Being a capable person means investing isn't easy. Of course, there will be times when things fail." Hearing this, a strange feeling welled up in his heart. After all, if I can't even get close to this, I'll never be successful in my entire life. Even in the beginning, he thought. Then shyly scratched his head. "I'm counting on you." Opposite him, 2 lines of tears that had been welling up for a long time finally spilled over. He nodded yes. With deep gratitude, he thought to himself, "This is the first time someone has believed in me this much." On the contrary, Chae-hun was feeling incredibly smug. He secretly wore the smile of a victor. Having successfully recruited someone and wrapped up the business, Chae-hun left, leaving Chae-sang alone in the room. Light streamed in through the window. It symbolized a flicker of hope that had just been sparked in his life. Chae-hun's words kept him thinking, his heart fluttering. "I invested in you because you have talent, senior." You make it sound like investing in someone is easy. There's a chance of failure, you know. In my life have I ever trusted someone this much before, looking forward to working with you." Every word Chae-hun uttered made him feel like he was finally alive. Because he was weak-willed and lacked the talent of his siblings, lost his mother at a young age and was left all alone, he could never gain his father's recognition. This trust. Failure is okay. Coming from a person like himself, someone who had never proven anything, it made him so emotional. At the same time, the system was also silently counting down every minute and second of Chae-hun's life, in case Haeyo's main challenge mission wasn't completed. Time remaining 49 days, 22 hours 58 minutes, 31 days 21 hours 4 minutes, 18 days 13 hours 36 minutes. The beeping sound kept going off continuously. Time remaining 10 days 23 hours 59 minutes. He didn't let any time go to waste. I was constantly improving himself in the John Guild's special training room through exercises designed by Sung-un. They were getting increasingly brutal, forcing Chae-hun to focus every sense. Only then could he survive the powerful strikes. Her techniques were unpredictably versatile. Every arrow fired carried immense force and lightning speed, terrifying anyone who saw it. Facing danger, he showed quick reflexes. Skillfully leaning to the left, he cleanly dodged the first attack. Immediately after, a barrage of bone-chilling ice arrows came rushing in. Chae-hun decisively ducked. Lowering his center of gravity, he immediately unleashed a mana barrier to easily deflect the incoming attack. To retaliate, he quickly activated his active skill, Holy Arrow. The arrows flew off, piercing straight into Sungun's protective shield. A second later, a faint cracking sound echoed. She changed her expression, shocked that her defense had been shattered in an instant. The shield cracked. To think he had already become this strong. The thick white smoke slowly dissipated, leaving 2 silhouettes standing still looking at each other. Both used this brief moment to catch their breath and recover. Little did they know it was just a feint. The very next second, Chae-hun immediately summoned the light chain. Opposite him, Sung-un had also activated a holy arrow waiting. 3 seconds later, both simultaneously launched their attacks at each other, but just then Sung-chae's voice boomed, cutting in, "Stop! Time's up, you two worked hard today." As he announced this, he glanced at the battle scars around them. The floor was covered in scratches from the collision, making Sung-chae exclaim, "The room's floor. The training floor is made of dungeon metal, and yet it's been wrecked like this. Especially since causing even a small scratch on the surface requires immense force. If I hadn't stepped in between them, the whole training room would probably be destroyed." Once they stopped, Sungun happily spoke up, "You've grown strong at a truly unbelievable speed. Compared to us at your age, the spells you can use, not to mention their intensity, are already completely out of reach. Are you studying theory separately somewhere else?" Chae-hun replied, "I'm learning from a friend." She immediately praised him, "That's better than I thought. Either way, I can't help you with both theory and practice, so I'm a bit worried. It seems you have a very smart friend, don't you?" Remembering Do-jung, he hesitated. "I guess so." Kim Do-jung is indeed very smart. The problem is her strangely annoying personality. She's always so narcissistic it leaves me speechless. Can you feel the greatness of this teacher? Has it ever crossed your mind to treat this teacher to some ice cream? waiting for Sungun to call out and tease Chae-hun like that. You said you wanted to try raiding the dungeon again, didn't you? Chae-hun nodded slowly and said, I want to see how effective my training has been. Hearing that, Sungun agreed immediately, sure thing. With your current abilities, an E-rank dungeon is just a light snack, right? Keep it up. Thinking about that mission, he couldn't help but sigh. If that were really an E-rank dungeon, how good that would be. I have to make this decision with a cool head. Am I truly ready? The Black Shadow dungeon has appeared. My enemy is actually a C-rank bot monster. Monster that in my previous life even as a D-rank awakened. There's no way to win if I play solo. Can I really face that thing alone? No, I've prepared everything, haven't I? Now all that's left is to head to the battlefield, isn't it? I can do this. After the training session, Chae-hun still regularly stopped by Chae-sang's office. Seeing him, Chae-sang greeted him happily, though still a bit shy. You're here, Chae-hun. Since sealing the partnership, Chae-sang had stayed up all night crafting the new potion to get the product he had today. Seeing the pill neatly placed in the tray, Chae-hun's eyes lit up. Yes, senior. You've worked hard. Is this it? Chae-sang didn't even need to introduce it. The system had already updated the item's info. Consumable item name Mana Enhancement Potion. A pill that can permanently increase the user's mana stat. Created by an excellent alchemist, its effects have been greatly enhanced. He excitedly asked, Can I eat it right now? He nodded happily, of course. As soon as he put the pill in his mouth, mana began to surge within Chae-hun, and a notification from the system popped up. You have consumed the Mana Enhancement Potion. Your mana stat has increased by 15 points and skills. The powerful increase in mana left him stunned. The effectiveness was so incredible that it even made the bitter taste of the pill feel very sweet. Alchemy is truly a profound and difficult science. Even though the thing created is the same item, depending on the alchemist's skill, the effectiveness varies. If I gave these ingredients to another alchemist and asked them to make this potion, don't talk about 15 points. They probably wouldn't even be able to increase my mana stat by 5. Seeing the results far exceed his expectations, he couldn't help but exclaim, See that, senior, you're so talented. Chae-sang shyly replied, It's all thanks to you putting your trust in me. Thank you. Hearing that, Chae-hun immediately said, I'm the one who should be saying thank you. You should get some rest too. You don't look like you've been sleeping well lately. Rubbing his eyes, he tiredly replied, Of course, if you need anything, then just tell me, okay, it's a deal. Chae-hun happily said goodbye to Chae-sang and returned home with an indescribable excitement. With this, I'm ready. Finally, the moment has arrived. For tomorrow, I will defeat the Black Shadow. Time remaining 9 days, 22 hours, and 47 minutes. At the same time, Hyo also sensed the battle would happen soon. She whispered softly, Looks like we'll have a special guest visiting today. In the blink of an eye, Chae-hun appeared at the dungeon gate of the John Guild, the path leading to the field of death of Hyo. He quickly prepared the necessary gear for this expedition. Equipped item C-rank Apprentice Valkyrie Ring, a ring for a Valkyrie in the Apprentice stage. Equipped item C-rank Apprentice Valkyrie Necklace, a necklace for a Valkyrie in the Apprentice stage. Equipped item C-rank Apprentice Valkyrie Earrings, earrings for a Valkyrie in the Apprentice stage. Set equipment, Apprentice Valkyrie 3 out of 3. Passive skill Mana Theft. He double-checked one last time. Chae-hun said satisfied, With this gear it should be enough. My condition is also at its peak. So Sung-chae nodded to signal the greeting. After that, Chae-hun took a long, deep breath to regain his composure. He stood still for a moment, and then slowly walked straight inside. Let's go. Just as he entered the dungeon, the system continuously popped up notifications. Space transition. You are being transported to a designated location due to the system. Current location, the field of death of Hyo. Having learned from experience, Chae-hun landed gracefully instead of falling flat on his face like last time. Just as expected. The place where he was standing was indeed the graveyard belonging to this land of death. Chae-hun had time to observe the surrounding space. I didn't realize it before, but there is a very ominous magical aura creeping through this space. This must be the miasma of the Black Shadow. Defeating him means I can meet that woman again. Hyo, the greatest enemy Loki. While he was lost in thought, an archer skeleton not far away silently drew its bow. Chae-hun whispered softly, And the gods... Just as the arrow was about to hit him, the mana shield automatically activated, deflecting the trajectory of the opponent's attack. He didn't rush to counter. He just stood there, his voice challenging, I have a lot of things I want to ask you guys. Saying that, Chae-hun slowly turned his head to look behind him. Hitting his eyes was a sea of zombies arranged in long, dense rows, standing there silently waiting for the opportunity to rush forward and tear him apart. Tearing through the prey, seeing the overwhelming number of zombies, Chae-hun felt not a shred of fear, but rather extreme excitement. He kept thinking to himself, there is one thing I need to teach you people, and that is how a magic warrior truly fights. Sungun's lectures from the martial arts class still echoed in his ears. This was often called a magic swordsman, but in essence it was a hybrid class, combining both magic and martial arts, and someone who had truly mastered this profession didn't exist yet. In terms of long-range attacks, it didn't match pure magic classes. Chae-hun lunged forward, aggressively tearing them apart one by one. Holy arrows struck them with terrifying speed before they could even react. His hands suddenly reached out. Even his eyes carried a terrifying, murderous aura. In terms of close-range combat, it doesn't match warrior classes. As that thought passed, the zombie in Chae-hun's grip was slammed hard into the ground. It lost all ability to fight. It wasn't restricted to any one style of attack. It was a very bizarre fighting style. However, for him, it was different. He didn't want to waste energy on these small fries. Chae-hun decisively used his ultimate skill, Judgment of Light, to wipe them all out. After the resounding explosion, the system notification popped up. You have defeated a zombie. You have defeated a demon. You have defeated a skeleton soldier. You gained experience points. At the same time, outside the dungeon entrance, Sung-chi was still keeping watch, never leaving. Just as he was reviewing some documents, a vibration suddenly emanated from the opposite side. Sensing strange movement, I immediately went on alert. There's some strange aura. I didn't receive any reports that anyone other than us would be here. On the road ahead, a car was slowly rolling toward him. A piercing screech echoed as the red car pulled to a stop right in front of Sung-chae. John-Chu spoke up arrogantly. Senior, the place you're at is so middle of nowhere. It was really hard to find you. Seeing her step out, he spoke in surprise. John-Chu, she replied. Long time no see, Senior. Sheathing his sword, Sung-chae asked a few questions. What are you here for? How's work at the guild? While typing on her phone, John-Chu replied flatly, I'm working right now, aren't I? I came here both to handle guild business and to see you. I had to come all the way out here just because you aren't at the Janqua Guild anymore. Hearing that, he could only sigh. You're not being honest at all. Ever since she graduated, hadn't she never once contacted him? Even so, on the surface, Sung-chi still gave her some face and replied, all right then. It's nice to see you again. But in his heart, he was already suspicious. She wasn't the type to bother visiting him, especially not traveling this far. Walking closer to the dungeon gate, John-Chu asked curiously, Are you managing this dungeon? Sung-chae spoke bluntly. Why would an outsider care about that? Being brushed off without mercy? She replied, irritably. That's strange. You usually never manage dungeons. Did you get demoted senior? There's something I want to ask you about the rumors that Yu Sung-un is sick. Is it true? As soon as she finished, his face suddenly darkened. He retorted angrily, It's obviously just a rumor. Where did you even hear that? John-Chu hesitated before replying, I have plenty of eyes and ears, as you know. My guild has a lot of that. That remark made Sung-chae even more furious. Was she admitting she had hired people to stalk them? He exhaled sharply to suppress his anger before speaking with forced restraint. I see. Thanks for telling me. It seems like thanks to you I have a lot more work to do now. Are you done with your business? I need to keep cleaning up. Encouraged by his reaction, she immediately asked, There's one more thing. Do you know this kid Min Chae-hun? Seeing his reaction to the name, Sung-chae froze for a few seconds. John-Chu continued, her tone clearly arrogant. Lately he seems to be hanging around the Janqua Guild headquarters quite often, and he meets with Guildmaster Yu Sung-un quite often too. I wonder if you happen to know why. He skillfully warned her, this isn't something an outsider needs to worry about. Seeing Sung-chae's harsh attitude, John-Chu withdrew her face, showing clear disappointment. Turning to leave, she huffed, Honestly, I didn't think you'd tell me anyway, Senior Park Sung-chae. I know all too well how arrogant and stubborn you are. Well, since I came all this way, I at least have to pretend to work. Since the guild is paying me anyway, I'm off then. See you later, Senior. Having said that, she revved the engine and left. The very next second, Sung-chae immediately sent off a text message. First things first, I have to report this to the guildmaster. While their conversation was taking place, Chae-hun had single-handedly cleared out the zombies in the dungeon. Sitting idly in a corner, he slowly muttered, I'm here. On the opposite side, The dark shadow that Chae-hun had been waiting for was also dragging its body toward him. The dungeon boss Dark Shadow had appeared to greet his opponent. He graciously gifted it a holy arrow to kick off the prelude. Chae-hun called out a challenging greeting, "Long time no see, huh?" Struck directly by the blow, the shadow boss let out a furious roar, but instead of being afraid, he replied with total confidence. "This time is going to be a lot different than the last," he said. The shadow boss aggressively bared its spiked maw, roaring loudly to assert its dominance while frantically launching a counterattack. Immediately, a massive wave of pressure blasted forward from its gaping maw. With lightning-fast reflexes, Chae-hun launched himself into the air, narrowly dodging the impact. Even before it could strike, he focused intensely, scanning its movements to spot an opening. The moment a weak point appeared, Chae-hun didn't hesitate for a second. Countless powerful holy arrows pierced straight into it. Struck head-on, the shadow boss clutched its head in agony, letting out a piercing wail. Now its internal fury was reaching a breaking point. It opened its glowing red eyes, locking a death stare onto Chae-hun before making its move. A barrage of sharp spikes was launched, racing toward the spot where he had just dodged. Having seized the moment to activate the Eye of Odin, Chae-hun spotted a gap. He calculated his attack pattern, and with a single step to the left, his whole body slid aside. A loud explosion rang out, momentarily startling the shadow boss. Reacting to the creature's flinch, he quickly scanned for another weak point before launching his next strike. His feet slid silently across the snow to adjust his stance. After regaining its composure, the beast swung its grotesque giant claws thick with sharp talons toward its opponent. But before the attack could even fully form, countless beams of Chae-hun's light chains surged forward, binding the shadow boss from behind. With the target locked, he finally triggered the chains to detonate. Even standing far away, Chae-hun only needed a slight flick of his fingers to manipulate the energy flow, with expert precision weaving it into the exact spot needed for the detonation. The light chains had to sneak carefully through every gap, freezing in place a few times for fear of being detected. After a few nerve-wracking minutes, finally, the light chains successfully triggered the blast. The terrifying pressure left the shadow boss completely dazed, and its health bar instantly plummeted by half. A searing pain shot through its entire body. The dungeon boss seemed to be losing its mind, screaming miserably. All his attacks so far felt like they were only causing temporary numbness, making him anxious that this still wasn't enough. Thinking quickly, while the shadow boss was still reeling, he rained down another volley of holy arrows directly onto the top of its head, aiming specifically for the creature's eyes. A thunderous explosion shook the entire space, followed by the creature's frantic, pain-filled roars. Fresh blood sprayed everywhere. A pungent metallic scent filled the air. As the thick smoke slowly cleared, the shadow boss was still standing tall. There were no signs of fatigue. On the contrary, Chae-hun, who had been on the offensive, was now hitting a snag. He hadn't dealt significant damage yet, and the shadow boss had only lost one of its eyes. But its fighting spirit only surged further. After pinpointing his location, the shadow boss angrily raised its claws, lashing out wildly toward the opposite side. It had completely spiraled into an uncontrollable state, and all the light chains that had been binding it began to loosen. Right at that moment, the system quickly confirmed the status, flashing a warning. The shadow boss has entered a berserk state. Boss attack power increased by 1.5 times. Boss agility increased by 1.5 times. Looking at the warning, Chae-hun started to focus his mental energy, but the next second a new notification appeared that left him tense. The content inside was completely encoded, turning into mysterious characters. A seal had been cast. In that moment of distraction, Chae-hun's movements were locked, and within the thick black smoke an emergency alarm rang out incessantly. If the seal is not removed within 10 minutes, the player will suffer a sudden death penalty. The condition to remove the seal was to defeat the shadow boss. Only now did he realize the desperate situation he was in. He had never even heard of a sudden death penalty before. In a state of panic, Chae-hun quickly played his last card. The universal active skill, Eye of Odin, was activated, but this action only caused the seal to tighten further. Frustrated and panicked, he shouted, "What is this?" I then struggled to cast the spell one more time. The universal active skill was triggered, but the only response was a hollow, hopeless void. With this overwhelming power, Chae-hun thought of a name and screamed maniacally, "Leo, how could you interfere like this?" Ignoring his desperate cries, the system remained cold. Time remaining before sudden death penalty 9 minutes and 28 seconds. With his last breath, he calculated quickly. I have no other choice now. The only way is to defeat it quickly, across from him. The shadow boss was still roaring in a rage, but the very next second it suddenly changed direction and turned to flee at an unimaginable speed. Realizing something was wrong, Chae-hun quickly fired a shot to intercept. The boss monster was running away. Holy arrows tore through the wind, flying swiftly, but with its current speed and agility, they still couldn't hit the target. Watching the time slip away. 8 minutes and 32 seconds. Provoked by the dungeon boss, Chae-hun gnashed his teeth in anger. You bastard! Let's see how you enjoy toying with me now. It knows that if it just drags the fight out, it wins, right? Fine, then I'll use an area of effect skill so it can't dodge. After running for a while, the shadow boss suddenly froze, then spun around and charged back at Chae-hun. While he hadn't yet regained his composure, it appeared behind him and cast a mental spell. An overwhelming pressure instantly crushed Chae-hun's consciousness, leaving him rooted to the spot for a long time. The air around him felt like it was being drained away. The system displayed a warning: your counterattack failed. You have been temporarily afflicted with fear debuff. Not believing the current situation, he shouted in shock, "What? No way, taking advantage of this." The shadow boss confidently lunged forward, its sharp claws striking out aggressively. In the critical moment, Chae-hun used all his remaining strength to retaliate. Though it was a struggle, the fear debuff vanished. The terrifying power of the clash sent him flying nearly 10 meters away, fighting to stay on his feet. Chae-hun planted his feet firmly, using all his strength to anchor himself. While regaining his balance and composure, the countdown was relentless. 7.11 seconds. The pressure was immense. He couldn't keep relying on skills that restricted the opponent's movement. I wasn't entirely sure, but if it saw him use Light's judgment again, it would definitely try to break it. Was he just supposed to keep taking hits until he ran out of mana, and then just die instantly? He needed a different plan. Suddenly, Chae-hun noticed a wound on the shadow's face and froze. A smirk tugged at his lips. Now that he thought about it, he'd landed a hit on its eye earlier, so its vision must be limited. His mind raced, calculating a way to shatter its defenses. The active skill Wind Steps was activated first, and the power of the wind surged through the player's body. His agility stats spiked instantly. The space around them shook violently, causing the shadow to panic for a split second as it frantically scanned its surroundings. Seeing Chae-hun still standing there calmly, the shadow let its guard down. But those vibrations were just a visual distraction. Chae-hun's true goal was to channel every bit of his remaining mana into the lightning burst that was about to follow. You thought I'd just blindly charge at you? Dots of light gathered at a single point in the air as his cold voice rang out. Seconds later, the system notification confirmed active skill lightning burst activated. A massive bolt of light crashed down like a thunderbolt, pinning the shadow to the spot. Its overwhelming power suffocated the space directly surrounding it and then brutally engulfing it in a wave of destruction. The attack tore through the shadow's massive frame without mercy. Once the sounds of annihilation faded, Chae-hun slowly stepped into the attack zone. He scanned the enemy's condition, and seeing the shadow slowly fading away, he spoke with satisfaction. Finally took that bastard down. The next second, the final shockwave detonated completely, turning everything nearby into dust. Even so, Chae-hun's penalty countdown hadn't stopped. 4.11. Watching the remaining zombies frantically resisting, he muttered, "So stubborn. You still have the energy to attack me, but it's too late now." Just minutes later, the system notified him. Sacrifice activated. Target locked. Zombie. Sacrifice converted into an attack skill. Skill Light's Judgment activated. The penalty countdown kept ticking. 3.46, 2.18, 1.47, 0.59, 0.31. Chae-hun let out a long sigh as the dungeon boss's body dissolved into nothingness. He spoke with relief. I did it. Even the physical wounds on the shadow were fading. The system displayed a notification. You have defeated the shadow boss. You have achieved the title, the one who overcame the first trial. Hyo was incredibly excited by this result. I knew you were the right choice. Come here, my boy. Come to my shrine, I invite you in. Space shifted constantly, and the system broadcasted continuously. Congratulations on defeating the Shadow Dungeon boss. The instant death penalty has been lifted. You have received 3,000 points. You have received an item. You have leveled up 3 times. You have achieved the title, the one who overcame the first trial. Checking player achievements. Check complete. Hyo's shrine was calling out to the player. One moment he was in the field of death, and the next, Chae-hun was transported by the system to the shrine's waiting hall. Seeing the scenery around him, he asked in awe, "Is this Heo's shrine?" A massive movement ahead caused Chehun to look up immediately. Someone shouted, "Gam!" He jumped in terror as he saw the giant face of the beast right in front of him. Gam wanted to roar a greeting, but the sound shook the entire space and the sheer pressure from the roar made Chehun stumble. He had to quickly activate Lightning Chain to steady himself. The beast's fierce cold eyes swept over him before it suddenly flew into a rage, reaching out with its razor-sharp claws to snatch him. Just as the claws were inches from Chehun, that voice called out again, "Gam, bring the guest in." Hearing the command, the beast finally relented. With a grunt of annoyance, it pulled back its claws and turned to head inside. Seeing the creature's reaction, he sighed in relief. Finally made it here. And so the beast walked in front, and Chehun followed behind. The interior of the shrine was bathed in a blinding light. As soon as he stepped inside, he asked urgently, "Heo, I'm here to see you." At the same time, Gam lay flat on the ground waiting for its master. The person hadn't appeared yet, but their voice echoed out, "I didn't think you could actually do it." The next second, a small figure radiating terrifying pressure landed on Gam's back. Heo spoke with interest. "Congratulations, little one destined to face a great enemy. You have passed the trial I set for you." Chehun got straight to the point. "What was all this for? Why did the system kidnap me and force me through this trial? Why are you doing all of this?" Facing the boy's anger, Heo just chuckled lightly, his tone nonchalant. "To turn you into an arch-enemy." Hearing that, he was stunned for a few seconds. An arch-enemy? But he quickly pressed on, "Then why me?" Heo continued to explain right from the beginning. "You were born carrying that kind of destiny." Chehun frowned, filled with confusion. "Destiny?" Heo laughed, teasing him. "The noble arch-enemy to the Aesir. You will be the one to take down the supreme god Odin. That is what Loki and we want from you." Hearing this, he couldn't help but be skeptical. "You want me to take down Odin? I don't understand any of this." Heo replied indifferently. "Why do you need to understand? I never needed you to understand. Being treated like a toy has finally gotten on your nerves, hasn't it?" She lunged forward, placed a hand over his mouth, and asked casually, "You must be feeling pretty bitter, unable to understand why you have to be a mere pawn in the god's game." Her finger slowly trailed down Chehun's chest as she declared, "But remember this well, this is no longer just your business, gods. It's ours, Asia." No sooner had she finished speaking than she jerked back, leaving the magical energy to hoist his body into the air. She raised her voice, explaining, "The world is inching closer to the apocalypse, all because Odin wants everything to bow at his feet, and we need the strength of the one prophesied to possess great power." The great enemy, left swaying in midair, hastily shouted, "Wait! Hey, there's still something I want to—" But she didn't bother answering him. She just gently continued where she left off. "Get even stronger. I'll be counting down the days until we meet again." The moment she finished, the magical current silently carried Chehun away from the temple, leaving her alone with Garm. She softly voiced her thoughts. "So, you still want to keep watching? I don't recall inviting you here." A few minutes later, Chehun was transported out of her realm back to where he started the dungeon. He opened his eyes, feeling defeated, his face clearly showing his frustration. He muttered to himself, "Damn it, this again. In the end, she didn't answer a single one of my questions." A ding from the system forced Chehun to shut up immediately. "The reward from Hell has arrived. You have learned the passive skill, Hell's Blessing. Legendary rank. It nullifies all abnormal status effects of the player." Seeing this, he shouted in shock, "What?" At the same time, inside the temple, the mysterious figure Mimir replied to Hell, "Please forgive this old man's rudeness. I heard you met with him and you already lost your patience." Hell didn't say anything more. She just leisurely stroked Garm's sleek fur. She softly added, "He really is a loyal friend, isn't he? But Mimir, meeting him in person, what do you think?" Mimir thought for a few seconds before commenting, "It's too early to draw conclusions. The great enemy is only just taking his first steps." Hearing this, Mimir asked skeptically, "Is that so? It seems you've taken quite a liking to him." Hell went silent, letting the empty space hang in the air. But a few minutes later, she laughed with amusement. "I admit the great enemy is progressing faster than I thought. He even overcame the obstacles I placed in his way to come find me. I'm glad my initial judgment of him was wrong." Hearing this, he also replied with satisfaction, "I'm glad to hear that. I heard he's doing well, so I can rest easy." Guessing the other party's intentions, Hell asked directly, All right, is that everything? I'm sure you have something else you want to say to me, right? Mimir hurriedly dodged the question. I don't know what you're talking about. Hell growled angrily. Really, you sly old man planning to play dumb until the very end, huh? You use that deceptive appearance to hide your cunning just like my second brother. The causality line of the great enemy has already been twisted. You think I wouldn't recognize it after meeting him in person? How boring. It seems your title of wisest giant has gone out of style, seeing the other party getting worked up. Mimir tried to soothe her. What a pity. Oh my. Calm down, will you? It's hard to deceive people, you know. Hell didn't hold back. It's not just that. The great enemy's left eye, that's definitely the eye Odin sacrificed to the well of wisdom, isn't it? Why didn't you tell me anything? The thing that you and Loki are plotting. Realizing everything had been exposed, he finally confessed, please forgive me. I wanted to tell you, but it's still too early. It's fate. Hell laughed derisively. Fate. All right, I'm used to waiting. But there is one thing I really can't be patient about. Curious about her intentions, Mimir prodded. You seem to have come up with a good idea, haven't you? Hell slowly replied, the great enemy is still lacking in experience. According to the prophecy, he must overcome many obstacles. He needs guidance. Guidance, so that he will always choose the right path no matter how great the obstacles he faces. The scene shifts to the first day at mile D7. Inside, it's incredibly bustling with people coming and going. Chae-hun lets out a troubled sigh. Hana, standing nearby, immediately notices. You don't look well. She furrows her brow and asks, is something bothering you? Chae-hun hesitates before replying, it's nothing. So Hana suggests, well then let's go buy the rest of the supplies we need. Walking behind her, he scratches his head thinking, what is it that's bothering me? After all the trouble he's gone through. It still bothers him that he hasn't answered any of his questions. His eyes dim as he tries to reassure himself. But at least I got a few things. Namely, the passive skill called Hell's Blessing, legendary rank, which nullifies all abnormal status effects of the player. Chae-hun glances at the notifications around him evaluating the old rankings. He thinks to himself satisfied, I also received a few skills from the old ranking results. First, the passive skill, titled The One Watched by the God S rank. It helps the player level up quickly through the God's blessing. Next is the passive skill, All-Seeing Divine Eye S rank. It pierces through illusions and brings truth to light. Chae-hun calculates silently, these are ranks not yet in the Asia system. This is a special exception, a skill that goes far beyond the standards of the Asia system. Chae-hun thinks as he walks, if other people's skills are of the same rank, then the all-seeing divine eye must be extremely valuable. It's what the Asia demigods desire and the reason they went so far. Chae-hun remembers Hell's words, you will destroy the mad supreme god, that is what Loki and we want from you. Returning to reality, he lets out another heavy sigh. On the other side, Hana's voice remained calm. Chae-hun paused, shocked as he glanced at the price tag 299 million won. Hana simply held out her card and said, I'll pay with my card. Chae-hun was absolutely stunned. 300 million won for a knife. Is that how much common gear costs here? As she took the item, she muttered an explanation. Milst provides these things too, but the gear provided for new students usually isn't up to standard. It's better to bring your own. Hana kept scrolling through her phone. The next thing we need to buy is... Looking at the screen filled with text, Chae-hun broke into a cold sweat. Is that the list of things we need to buy? A moment later, Hana bowed and introduced herself. Greetings, Min Chae-hun. I am Hana from the Jonghwa Guild. She kept right on talking. The representative wants to send you a gift as you'll be enrolling at Milst soon. Chae-hun listened anxiously to Hana's question. Are you free right now? He stood there clutching a pile of bags, feeling overwhelmed and helpless. He thought she was just going to give him some potions or maybe one or two items. Chae-hun's gaze dropped confused. He hadn't expected this at all. Is this a training ground for the Jonghwa Guild? Then Hana turned around and demanded time to check the armor. Chae-hun called out after her, wait. He summoned his own gear, explaining, I don't need armor. I already have some. A system window appeared. Equipped item Black Armor Grade B. A shard of the night shrouded in shadows. That darkness stretches out beyond death. Though it flickers with the presence of existence when equipped, invisibility is activated. Chae-hun silently evaluated it. I won't find a better defensive set than this here. His eyes were sharp. Plus, it has invisibility. When equipped, invisibility activates. Hana glanced over when she heard Chae-hun say the armor came with such a rare skill. It was even harder to find, so she asked directly, "Are you looking for gear with an invisibility feature?" Hana rubbed her chin, looking worried. "Conquerors really want things like that, but it's not easy to find one here." He waved his hand, dismissing it. "I was just saying it, don't worry about it. Anyway, not many people want to learn that skill right." Chaehoon walked past Hana, adding, "Unless you get lucky in a dungeon, you won't find it." She became serious and noted, "That's right. The only conqueror in South Korea with invisibility is my brother." Hearing this, Chaehoon looked baffled. "Your brother," Hana turned back to explain, "Manager Baek Sung-che. You didn't know the representative must have been teasing you." Thinking of Sung-chi's face, Chaehoon froze in place. Hana walked past him, saying, "Let's skip the armor for now. Let's go look at weapons." Watching Hana's back, Chaehoon was deeply confused. "Wait, seriously?" He awkwardly contemplated how the two of them didn't look alike at all. Then, Chaehoon started walking again when suddenly a surge of energy brushed past him. The system displayed a notification and the space around them suddenly became chaotic. Chaehoon stood tensely in the crowd, scanning his surroundings. "Is this light from a treasure gate?" Hana also grew tense and called out, "Min Chaehoon." Chaehoon dashed off, answering, "Wait for me." He was so urgent his breathing became shallow. Nearby there was a place holding a vast amount of gold, silver, and jewels. A figure appeared outside the door. The system rang out with a series of notifications. Passive skill Omnipotent Eye activated, piercing through false illusions and illuminating the truth. Low-grade skill unlocked. You have learned Active Skill Scout. Active skill name, Low-grade Scout, Grade S. Effect 1. Determine the rarity of an item, unknown. Effect 2. Immune to the effects of invisibility skills and other illusionary skills. Chaehoon stood amidst the notifications, completely bewildered. "What is this?" It was reporting again. System Nonia is initializing Active Skill Scout. Elsewhere, a fierce battle was taking place. A young man gritted his teeth and cursed in annoyance. "Damn it!" Opposite him stood a person with sharp eyes and platinum hair. A series of sword strikes were unleashed in an instant. The referee announced, "The match is over, and Hojun is the winner." Sogu smiled with satisfaction, exclaiming, "Victory is a given." I agree, his opponent was also a player with a history of victories. In many matches, he affirmed, but the difference in intellect is obvious. Sogu offered commentary about Hoseon. "That's why people call him an S-grade conqueror." "In the future," he muttered, walking past him. "Well done, Hoseon." Hoseon's face darkened as he replied, "Thank you, father." Immediately after, Sogu's expression soured as he reminded him, "Don't get too happy. This was just a match where the odds were in your favor." Hoseon remained as stoic as ever, replying, "I know." As Sogu walked away, he instructed, "The match is over, so go now. Prepare for the next thing on your schedule. I have to go buy a few things. When you're done showering, come down to meet me." Everything left in Hoseon's mind at that moment was frustration. He stood under the shower, trying to relax. Hoseon thought helplessly, "I'm exhausted with this mechanical life, unable to do anything I want." He mumbled, "This isn't the kind of scout I wanted to be." Hoseon was just completely confused, wondering, where exactly did I go wrong? Back at Chaehoon's location, a series of notification windows popped up. Item equipped name, Misty Titan Grade Growth Type Branch of Mistletoe, the weapon that ended the son of Odin. It grows alongside the player and holds terrifying magical power. Once equipped, the passive skill, Magic Detection, is activated currently at level A. It boosts magic detection to the highest possible level and allows the user to perceive the flow of mana significantly. He laughed, feeling a bit thrilled. Misty Titan. Right in front of Chaehoon was still that pile of glowing loot. He sighed. Is this another one of the system's sick jokes or what? Just then, Hoseon happened to pass behind Chaehoon inside the mall where he was talking to a staff member saying, this, and this too. Seeing that, Hoseon immediately chimed in, "Isn't that a bit too much?" He calmly picked up a sword to examine it and replied, "All of this belongs to you. Don't think that's even a lot. You are a future S-rank awakener." Hojun was still worried. "But if we spend this much money, what about Mom's hospital bills for this month?" Before Hoseon could finish, Saku cut him off, clearly annoyed. "It's enough." He then added with a stern face, "That's my concern. You just need to focus on your training." So he couldn't press the matter further. "Yes, father." Hoseon's eyes went completely empty. What am I even doing here? The people around them started pointing and whispering, "Look, isn't that an Hoseon? That martial arts genius, but why is he here?" Looking like he wanted to hide, Hosen hurriedly pulled his cap low and turned to leave. Was this the kind of awakener I wanted to become? But he was gradually losing his way, feeling no different than a monkey trapped in a zoo. Back when he first awakened as a child, Joseon remembered his mother giving him such a warm smile. She patted his head, and he had wished that one day he could become an awakener. His family's life was drowned in poverty and darkness, and he was their only ray of hope. But that ray of hope meant nothing to his father other than being a tool. And now he felt like nothing more than a machine, a tool that only knew how to obey his father's orders. Joseon slowly began to doubt himself. Could a pathetic guy like me really survive 3 years at Milet? Just then, an announcement blared out, causing everyone to panic. Attention all customers! There is a dungeon break near the shopping center. Monsters have appeared. The guilds are sending awakener teams, so please stay calm and follow our instructions. Hosen exclaimed, tense. A dungeon break. Monsters appearing right in the middle of the city. Staff members immediately directed the crowd. Everyone please follow this path. The awakeners will be here soon. Please stay calm and, Sakyu asked, Hosen, aren't you coming? He stood there coldly and reminded him, you are a genius who holds the future of all South Korea in his hands. If you get hurt here, you'll be at a disadvantage for the Milet entrance exam. You don't need to get involved in this. Hearing that, he could only stand there stunned. That's right, just like Father said. The awakeners will arrive soon and handle these monsters. Joseon kept questioning himself. But what about the civilians and the time it takes for them to arrive? His eyes lit up as if he had realized something. This is a chance. Suddenly, Joseon turned and bolted into the middle of the crowd, ignoring Saku shouting behind him, And Joseon, what do you think you're doing? Get back here right now. As he ran, Hosen whispered to himself. A chance to protect the dignity and freedom of an awakener. I have to know if the me of today is the future I once wanted to show my mother. But right after that, Joseon froze in his tracks. Standing right in front of him was a goblin with glowing eyes surrounded by an entire pack of them. Hosen was so anxious he stood rooted to the spot, sweat pouring down his face like a fountain. My body, I can't move. He helplessly realized the only thing moving was his own trembling. Damn it. Joseon shivered uncontrollably. He couldn't even lift a finger. I tried to force himself to move. Move, damn it. Watching the goblins charge, Hosen silently confirmed. You knew perfectly well you'd have to face danger. He asked himself, how can you be afraid of a low-level monster? Joseon widened his eyes as he waited for the goblins to rush him. And here you've been dreaming of becoming an awakener for so long, haven't you? At that exact moment, Chehun suddenly appeared. Joseon's hood was blown off by the wind and he fell backward onto the ground. Chehun slowly spoke. Are you, he asked slightly unsure, on Joseon? The scene shifts back to earlier in the mall. In Chehun's hand was the item he had just bought with his personal funds. Transaction 50 million won deducted. Hana ran over from the direction of Sahana and shouted, Min Chehun. Then she worriedly questioned, what's wrong? Why did you go in there? Hana wondered, and what is that rock? Chehun was confused, wondering. In everyone else's eyes, is it just a rock? Then he tucked it away and replied, it's nothing. Deep down, Chehun told himself, if someone could identify it as clearly as the system does, that would be the real anomaly. He turned and started to say, oh, and I don't think I need to buy a weapon anymore. This left Hana feeling rather annoyed. Excuse me. Just then the announcement blared out, attention to all customers. There is a dungeon break near the shopping center. Monsters have, upon hearing that, Chehun's eyes widened. He turned and bolted, leaving Hana panicking as she called after him, Min Chehun? He smashed right through the glass doors. Chehun lunged outside, aiming straight for the goblins on the ground as he dove down. They looked up in confusion, not understanding what was happening. The aura radiating from Chehun was incredibly suffocating. A massive explosion erupted, shaking the entire area. Chehun landed calmly right in the middle of the goblins, his eyes evaluating them with caution. There are way more of them than I thought. Trying to take them down while making sure no one else gets hurt is going to be tricky. Suddenly, bolts of lightning arced out, surrounding the goblins. Chehun blasted them right where they stood, then darted around, reappearing behind the pack. He kicked a goblin square in the head just as it was charging at Hosen, then looked up and called out, You're... On Joseon, standing right across from him, froze. As Joseon turned around, he stammered, My helmet. Chehun's eyes dimmed with a hint of sadness. I never expected to run into the unlucky genius. And Hojan in a place like this. Hojan looked confused. Who are you? Shahun recognized him instantly. Right, you're a student at the Millet Academy, too. He shook it off. Whatever, I need your help. Hoseon shouted in alarm. Wait, watch out behind. Chehun didn't even turn around, just flicked his hand to finish off the goblin. I know, he replied. His words caught Hoseon completely off guard. We can't let these monsters get anywhere near the crowd. Chehun's voice turned cold. Are you just going to stand there forever? He ordered him to grab his weapon and join the fight. Hosen finally managed to pull himself together. A strange newfound strength began to well up inside him. Just by hearing him say that, the trembling that had paralyzed me suddenly vanished. Watching Chehun's back, Hoseon silently confirmed it. He really is a true conqueror. He stepped forward, heart set on the fight. My job right now is to save people. His eyes burned with unwavering resolve. Chehun and Hoseon stood side by side and charged toward the goblin horde. Suddenly, Chehun threw a challenge his way. You know how to use that thing, right? Get ready, provoke the demons around here. Chehun laid out the plan for both of them. There are a lot of goblins here. Don't miss a single one. Lure as many as you can, he said before asking again. You can do it right. Hosen hardened his resolve. No more hesitation. He drew his sword and slashed through the air. I have to give it everything I've got. He slammed his sword into the ground and unleashed his skill. The very air around them flared with power as he activated Roaring Provocation. A system notification popped up. Demons within a 50-meter radius are now focused on you. Physical and magic defense reduced by 30%. The alarm kept ringing. Thanks to Roaring Provocation, the goblins could only stand there stunned and exposed. Their eyes glowed a dangerous shade of red. Chehun watched from the side, silently impressed. Roaring Provocation is a high-tier skill far superior to standard taunts. His level is already high enough to use that. I guess people with real talent always walk their own path, huh? Even so, before I regressed, the highest he ever reached was B rank. Not sure if that's because of his mental issues, or some other reason. But despite his fame, his performance is destined to drop off quickly. That's why the world calls him the unlucky genius. But who cares? His weak-willed nature can change over time, and Hosen could actually be useful later on. As long as he grows in the direction I've planned, the mission will be a success. I urged him on boosting his morale. All right, let's face them together. Hoseon replied firmly. Got it. A blast of sword energy shot out, but a goblin managed to block it. Hosen kept fighting hard, and in just a few moments, they had wiped out the entire goblin pack. Someone watching from a distance approached them looking confused. What on earth just happened? Their eyes turned toward the source of the voice. Seeing them notice him, the man stepped forward. Greetings. I'm Park Ji-hoon from the National Subjugation Bureau. Did you two take care of these goblins? Hoseon nodded. Yes. At that moment, the man recognized him. Gray hair, gray eyes. Wait, he's... And Hosen. I heard rumors he was a genius, but he looks like a high schooler. And that other kid is about the same age. They managed to take down all these monsters. Park Ji-hoon scratched his head in confusion, muttering, well, I'm not sure how I'm supposed to report this to my superiors. Chehun cut in. I was planning to talk to you about that too. He proposed just report that the Bureau handled the monsters. Nobody is going to believe that two of us did this. Park Ji-hoon rubbed his chin, looking torn. But that's against the rules. Chehun glanced around, ensuring no one was listening. And who's going to see anyway? There are no cameras or black boxes, he said with a shrug. You know how it is, we're under the government's thumb, so I can't exactly make the call myself. If the two of you don't want your identities revealed, I'll take care of that. You'll also both receive a reward from the Air Bureau. Hearing this, Chehun sighed a bit wearily, but in the end he agreed, gesturing toward Hoseon. Fine, just give my share to him. Just make sure you keep the fact that I was here a secret. Chehun silently calculated that since he had the Doan Guild's support, he didn't need the money, and it was better not to draw any attention before entering Milet. Chehun figured it would be beneficial to have Hoseon owe him one, but Ji Ong-hun asked awkwardly, I can handle that part, but is that really all? Just then, Hoseon shouted, interrupting, Wait! He glared at him in protest. What are you talking about? You were the one who cleared out all those demons? Hearing this, Ji Ong-hun couldn't help but be startled while Chehun turned to explain, I have my own reasons. He smiled, though feeling uneasy inside. He couldn't risk being discovered by that bastard before entering Milet. Chae-hun had made up his mind before he regressed he was just a nameless fighter. Back then that bastard hadn't paid him any mind, but things were different now. I didn't know that Chae-hun had switched to using magic. If he found out, there was no telling what he might do to interfere. From now on, he had to keep a low profile. His revenge plan had to be meticulous and secret. He had to hide his tracks, grow stronger, and wait for the perfect moment to slit that bastard's throat. The more he heard, the more confused Hoseon became. He hung his head in distress, wondering, what should I do? I can't figure this out. Hoseon searched his conscience. Taking all the credit for himself didn't feel right. He hesitated, but then again that money could pay for his mother's medical treatment. He couldn't stop the internal struggle. I want to be an upright conqueror, he thought, but he couldn't see a clear way through. But if I'll miss the window for Mom's treatment and she won't make it. What do I do? Just then, Chae-hun glanced over and spotted the issue. His expression looked too serious. It couldn't just be about pride. Was there some other reason he was hesitating? In that case, I guess I'll have to help him decide. He spoke up directly, asserting, think back. Chae-hun tried to encourage him. You did so much work. If you hesitate now, someone could die, so don't think you aren't worthy. Hearing this, Hoseon turned away. He finally said, you're right. But deep down, Hoseon already had his answer. He shouldn't have hesitated from the start. If I lose someone important just because I overthought things, what would my dream even mean? He turned to Chae-hun and vowed, I will repay you for this someday. Ji Ong-hun, who had been watching the whole process from the side, couldn't help but exclaim, he's incredibly persuasive, a truly remarkable person. Ji Ong-hun spoke up. So it's decided, then I'll proceed with the plan. Chae-hun turned to leave. All right, I'm heading out. Hoseon called out after him. Please just tell me your name and phone number. He smiled gently and replied, no need for that. Don't be so formal with me. We're the same age after all. Chae-hun promised. We're both going into Milet, so we'll be seeing plenty of each other. This left Hoseon completely stunned. Same age. Deep down, Chae-hun told himself, actually, I've already finished preparing for everything at Milet. Time shifted to the first day at Milet Academy. The crowd suddenly grew rowdy and started whispering, hey, is that him? That martial arts genius? They wouldn't stop pointing at Hoseon. Wait, Hoseon, isn't he just a foreigner? Then it was the turn of a girl nearby. Who's that? She's so pretty. That person was Seo-ina. Chae-hun thought to himself, she's already drawing so much attention. It wasn't surprising. She would eventually become one of the top-tier conquerors. If she were on his side, it would be a huge advantage, but she isn't like a normal person. Chae-hun figured he didn't need to act immediately. He already had Du Sung-un and Hoseon and Lee Chae-sang. Du Sung-un, sad, sounding a bit annoyed. She's pretty sure, but you staring at her like that is just creepy. This caught Chae-hun off guard. What are you talking about? Just then, Ina glanced over. But from the high platform, someone spoke up to welcome the students. He introduced himself with a smile. I am the principal of this school, Gu Cha-in. Chae-hun frowned, thinking to himself, Gu Cha-in, it feels like everything started from here. That's right, he looks exactly like how I remember. Beside him, Du Sung-un was staring blankly, his head hanging low as bad memories came flooding back. Back, Kim Du-sung, stop, I beg you, stop. Chae-hun's face darkened as he spoke up to comfort him. Stay strong. You know that anything can happen here at Milet, right? She gave me a radiant, reassuring smile, saying, why are you suddenly so worried? Don't worry, I'll study really hard. Jae-hun felt a bit more at ease. Right. Kim Do-jung was going to become one of the 3 strongest mages in the class. This time, he wouldn't let her die. Up on the podium, Chae-in continued, listen up, everyone. We will now begin the Milet Academy entrance ceremony. He folded his paper and started his speech. That's all for my part. You must all be bored, right? Chae-in raised his hand to signal them. His expression twisted as he said, you should know the Milet entrance ceremony has a special event. Chae-in announced a game. All students will gather and try to steal your peers' name tags. We will now begin the freshman hunt. Beneath everyone's feet, blue circles immediately appeared. The students panicked. What magic circles? Do-jung was confused and let out a cry. She tripped and fell. Seeing this, Jae-hun quickly lunged toward her. Kim Do-jung, don't fall there, it's dangerous. He grabbed her hand and pulled her back, but her body still collided with someone. A bright light flashed and the scene shifted to Sung Jae-hun's office. Today is the entrance ceremony, Jae-hun, he announced. Hearing this, Sung-un exclaimed, oh my god, so soon. I was just about to text him to wish him luck, but if I send it now, he won't be able to read it anyway. It's also for 3 days this time, he replied. If you mean the freshman hunt, then yes. It will take place continuously for 3 days in a segregated zone. Sungun looked sad and sighed. So it'll be 3 more days until I can contact him. What a pity. He then mentioned, I knew you'd forget. So I already sent it for you yesterday. Hearing that, she brightened up immediately. Really? Did he reply? What did Jae-hoon say? Sung Jae-hoon pulled out his phone to show Sung-un, but the scene cut back to the freshman hunt. Jae-hoon asked worriedly, Hey Do-jung, are you okay? Next to them appeared Seo Ina. He cautiously turned his head to observe. Jae-hoon quickly realized, wait a minute. This kid, black hair, hazel brown eyes, rank 92 magical talent. The one who completely changed the mage class, the future conqueror, rank 6, Sung-un. Her eyes flashed with a brilliant light. Sung-jae showed Sungun the message. He said no need to worry. Jae-hoon clearly knew her identity. It was Seo Ina. The scene opened at Milet Academy in the central control room. A group of people was queuing to enter. Someone exclaimed, we have quite a few talented candidates this year. An Ho-jeon has enough potential to be noticed even abroad. And although the mages Seo Ina, Kim Do-jung, and Lee Soo-hook all have aptitude scores over 90, the candidates' career paths haven't been updated yet. Just then, Cha-in interrupted, Don't bother worrying about it, Coach Kim Seok-jae. He put on an indifferent look and asserted, If we change it at this point, then there's no need to look anymore. This place isn't lax enough to hold people like that. The candidates entering Milet Academy were generally very talented, but among them some stood out clearly. Cha-in secretly evaluated them, for example, An Ho-jeon. He smiled calculatingly. Those guys will just end up as stepping stones for the geniuses anyway. We don't need to give them a chance. Normally, when an awakened can't defeat an opponent or is in danger, they might get one more chance, one awakened talent. Even if it means sacrificing 100 conquerors of rank C, you still have to train one conqueror of rank A. A conqueror must constantly show their spirit. The losers probably just haven't proven themselves yet, that's all. And Chae-in told himself his role was to choose the gems for him. He rested his chin on his hand, asserting that he couldn't delay any longer. The freshman hunt took place on a semi-artificial planet created by magic in this space. You can do things impossible in reality, like manipulating time or removing gravity, and in that space. Each year, about 50% of candidates fail. This event is that difficult, and it makes you realize how limited your skills are. Jae-hoon was determined. I can't be careless. I was extremely wary, especially of Seo Ina. Just then, Cha-in's face appeared on the screen, smiling as he spoke. I will explain the rules for the freshman hunt. Within the limits of the semi-planet you are currently on, you can use skills of rank X or lower, and if you obtain a name tag, you will get points. When a senior gets a freshman's name tag, they will receive 10,000 points. Conversely, a freshman will get 100,000 points. You can use these points everywhere in Milet, so get as many as you can. Jae-hoon frowned in tension and evaluated. Skills of rank X and below, huh? So that means I can't use my rank A skills. But he didn't mention special skills. Then he wrapped up, Everyone, I hope you have a fun time. All skills will be reduced to 1/10 of their strength. To ensure everyone's safety, you don't need to worry about getting hurt. After hearing that, he breathed out a sigh of annoyance and cursed, what a load of crap. Jae-hoon understood the problem. Not only did he not mention special skills, but he also didn't mention stat limits. He clearly wanted to weed out the useless ones and pick the talented ones. Then he turned to Kim Do-jung and said, Let's go. We have to stay here for 3 days. We need to find shelter first, Jae-hoon thought to himself on this half-planet. There are plenty of things to use for survival, like traps that can provide food and herbs to heal wounds. This nightmarish forest's ecosystem allows you to find food and shelter. If we want to survive for 3 days, shelter is the most important thing. We have to find a place to stay before thinking about anything else. Do-jung suddenly called out, Hey Jae-hoon, wait up. Wouldn't it be safer to bring her along? You seem a bit confused, huh? That person, she expressed that she also seems to be a magic cadet. Wouldn't it be better to have an extra person? Ji-hoon frowned, calculating. Why is he making so much sense right now? Honestly, it would be better to cooperate with Serena, but deep down he was still extremely wary. But I can't control her. Even though I know about her from the news, what happened that day was because Serena couldn't control her anger. It endangered so many people. Then Jae-hoon raised the issue. We can't just decide this easily. Are you sure she won't betray us? And look, she always seems suspicious and doesn't trust us at all. Do-jung looked over at Ina and exclaimed seriously. Her appearance made Do-jung see the image of Jae-hoon. She casually expressed, The way I see it, she's exactly like you were when we were kids. Then Do-jung hurriedly walked toward Ina, despite Chae-hun calling out, "Hey, wait!" She smiled and spoke up. "If you'd like. Do you want to join us? We're mages too, you know." Her eyes glanced slightly at Do-jung, who was still trying his best to convince her. "No matter how you look at it, this deal isn't good at all, especially since we mages fight better in groups." Hearing that, Ina just calmly replied, But I think we should decide that later." Looking in the direction she was facing, a figure glided down, kicking up dust everywhere and revealing two people. "Found 3 freshmen already," Young-sang exclaimed excitedly. "Looks like it'll be easy to get points this year." Beside him was Sojun. She frowned and lamented, "I only tracked 2. But when she saw 3 people, Sojun froze for a moment. She was utterly bewildered. What the hell? Why couldn't I sense that guy? Chae-hun looked over tensely, assessing the situation. These guys are being so blatant. Do-jung sensed the danger and warned, "Hey, those seniors are warriors. Running away first would be better, right?" But Chae-hun thought differently and replied, "No, we have to catch them. We can't escape them." Chae-hun was already calculating in his head. "From what I remember, Sojun has a special ability that allows her to find targets within 300 kilometers. Sojun's eyes lit up as she searched. He thought to himself, "If we don't defeat them, they'll gather others and attack us." Young-sang was still excitedly exclaiming, "All right, once I get these points, I'm going to buy a ton of delicious food." Sojun glanced over and warned, "Hey, don't get cocky. That handsome guy is a bit strange, but he was still arrogant. He's just a freshman. It's not like it's our first time doing this." Then Jung-sang rushed straight at them. "Watch this. I'll take care of them in a flash." Chae-hun's eyes observed everything with complete coldness, and just as Young-sang swung his sword, he dodged it just in time. His eyes widened in shock. Sojun was also stunned, exclaiming, "Seriously, this fat guy." She was feeling a bit wary deep down. "I told you there was something strange about him," Chae-hun calmly remarked. "It's been a while since someone swung a sword at me." But Young-sang still didn't realize the problem. It was just a lucky dodge, he thought scornfully. How could I have never heard of a freshman good enough to counterattack me? Then Jung-sang lunged again with burning intensity. "You're just a freshman mage." With every sword strike he threw, Chae-hun calmly tilted his body to avoid them. He didn't even bother to strike back. A moment later, Young-sang was sweating bullets, questioning himself. Why he gradually became afraid of Chae-hun as he grabbed his sword. "I can't beat him." Chae-hun leaned in close and questioned him. "You're really something. Young-sang, how have you survived with that physique?" As soon as he finished speaking, he crushed Young-sang's sword. Ina stood there, eyes wide. Chae-hun calmly ordered, "If you hand over your name tag, I'll let you go. I'll give you 3 seconds to hand over the name tag and get out of here." Young-sang was too scared to speak. He stared at the fragments of his sword and stood frozen, unable to believe it. He's just a newbie. Young-sang was pressured by Chae-hun's presence. But why was he looking at him with that gaze? He calmly spoke up to warn him, "Don't say I didn't give you a chance." "You didn't take it." Right after he finished, Chae-hun threw a punch right into the center of Young-sang's head. Dust billowed everywhere. Sojun recoiled in shock. A beam of light shot down from the sky. The system announced, "Player Young-sang has been eliminated." Sojun frowned, exclaiming, "A freshman already got eliminated." Along with that, another system board appeared. "Player Min Chae-hun has obtained 100,000 points. Sojun was startled and froze her mind in a whirl as she probed. "Wait, not Ahanjan, it's Min Chae-hun. Who is that? And who? Is there a problem?" Guide Park Haejun, confused, checked the records again. "That's not right. The instructor's ISU results are correct." "Is there an issue on your end, Instructor Kim Jon?" She stared blankly, replying, "Nothing on this side either." On the other side, Chae-hun was watching silently. He chuckled and exclaimed, "Min Chae-hun, huh." On the arena floor, Sojun shouted irritably, "You who the hell are you?" Chae-hun calmly reminded them, "Do-jung, get ready. We still have to deal with the rest. I'm sending you a team invite. Accept it right now." She looked dazed. "Huh. Oh, okay." Do-jung stood to the side, wondering in bewilderment. Is he always this strong? Ina was also invited to the team. Sojun frowned nervously, assessing them. "Shin Jung-sang, you idiot, this has gotten more complicated." She calmly analyzed the situation. Even without that monster, a 3-on-1 was still too dangerous. Sojun pulled 3 spirit swords from her pocket, telling herself, "I should take out one of them and get out of here fast." Then she suddenly lunged forward. Sojun's face darkened as she attacked Do-jung. She looked stunned, mouth agape, and let out a cry. Chae-hun watched carefully, thinking, "Not bad at all." He realized everything. Confusing the opponent with a quick attack, then relying on an opening to escape, that's the best choice for Sojun. But things weren't that simple. Seeing Do-jung set up a barrier, Sojun couldn't help but be surprised. She can react to my speed. He asserted that her tactics would only work if Kim Do-jung were an ordinary person. Just then, she spun around, unleashing a combo attack with the 4 hidden weapons Sojun was clutching in her palm. Then she abruptly stopped and turned to throw them. Do-jung quickly activated her shield to defend. Chae-hun stood to the side, calmly assessing, still going up against a senior is pretty tough for them. Do-jung, I should help her. He used Aphem's holy light, but at the same moment Ina was creating a holy sword. Chae-hun looked up in confusion. He quickly realized it was Ina's special skill, Aphem's mirror. A barrage of swords shot toward Sojun. She helplessly spat out a mouthful of blood. Damn it! Finally, Sojun realized the truth. All 3 of them were monsters. The system announced, player Sojun has been eliminated. Based on contribution levels, player Kim Do-jung has received 50,000 points. Ina folded her arms and asked, "Did I interrupt?" Another notification rang out. Based on contribution levels, player SEO Ina has received 50,000 points. Do-jung happily replied, "Not at all, I only won because of you." Then she probed, "That offer from earlier, is it still on the table?" Meanwhile, Chae-hun was calculating, "It seems I need to update my information on Seo Ina." His assessment of her now was that she was quiet, untrustworthy, and sudden. Ina glanced at him, and Chae-hun felt very curious. Just then, the system announced, "You have formed a team. Team 3 out of 3. Team leader, Min Chae-hun. Members, Kim Do-jung, Seo Ina." The scene shifted to the nightmare forest near the shelter. On the ground was a giant footprint. Sung-hoon bowed his head to inspect it. "There are traces of people having passed by. It seems they've entered a shelter." He thought in shock. Newbies managed to eliminate Sojun and Shin Jung-sang. Then Sung-hoon ordered, "Tell the others to stop searching and just keep watch around here. Hunting rookies is a 3-day game. Those kids can't just stay cooped up in there for 3 days. Now let's see what they look like." At this moment, Do-jung was standing guard to one side. A beam of light flashed, piercing through Sung-hoon's chest. Immediately after, the system displayed, "Player Kim Sung-hoon has been eliminated." Just then, Jin-hook became alert and spun around. He caught a glimpse of her running away. He shouted, "Over there." They hurried after Do-jung to catch her. Her expression darkened as she calculated, "There are 5 of them, huh?" Then she let out a breath. "Good, everything is going very smoothly." Finally, Do-jung turned around to provoke them. "Seriously, you guys are like dogs chasing a bone. Doesn't it feel shameful running around in such a big group?" This made Jin-hook furious. "Stop right there," Do-jung muttered as she ran. "That was simple." The scene shifted back to just before that. Chae-hun had given instructions. "All right, listen up." He carefully outlined the problem. "The shelter might be a safe place, but we can't stay here forever." Chae-hun insisted, "We have to find food, and more importantly, we have to get points." Do-jung blurted out, "Points." Ina also understood and spoke up. "You mean?" Chae-hun directly confirmed, "Yeah." He had come up with a plan, and Do-jung was carrying it out now. "We are going to hunt some seniors." As she dashed past something that was glowing, a system board immediately popped up warning, "Level 1 creature detected nearby." Do-jung's eyes swept over, filled with satisfaction. "Found you. I've lured them in just like your plan. But I'm losing my stamina." The system announced, "Active skill Gale has been activated." Do-jung whispered, "I'm leaving the rest to you." Min, clearly understanding that failure meant death for Chae-hun, was hit with a warning prompt. "You have entered the territory of the paralyzing spore mushrooms before the start of the assessment." Chae-hun had come to find Chae-sang to get some info on how to deal with the paralyzing spores during the rookie hunt. He pondered for a long while. Based on their growth habits, Chae-sang eventually identified their natural predator, suggesting that ash tree sap would be best as it's easily found in the nightmare forest. "But that's only for treatment," he added. "It won't stop them from affecting you. If you've already been hit by the paralyzing spores..." Still, even that small bit of information made him feel relieved. He hurriedly spoke up with genuine gratitude. "That's more than enough. Thank you so much." Back in the nightmare forest, the seniors started to panic. Jin-wook yelled, "Everyone wait," but it was too late. As they skidded to a halt, they realized they had stepped into the restricted zone of the paralyzing spore mushrooms. Sensing a strange atmosphere, one of them said cautiously, "Jin-wook, this doesn't look good. Should we pull back?" He seemed to have already fallen into a state of paralysis. his eyes bloodshot with terrifying prominent veins as the system warning chimed suddenly. Level 1 creature nearby. The noise from the creature caused the crowd to shift their focus. Moments later, the seniors were still wandering the area searching. With no results yet, Jin-wook grumbled, "We've come this far already, and you dare suggest giving up? Since we've made it this far, we have to be even more careful. One slip and it's all over." Seeing his stubbornness, Sung-hun nervously tried to stop him. "Don't chase after her anymore." But as soon as he spoke, Jin-wook roared, threatening him. "Hey, Kim Sung-hun, you got beaten by a rookie and you have the nerve to spout such nonsense?" Facing the insults, he could only tremble as he voiced his opinion. "So what if we got outsmarted by a rookie? What if we get poisoned if we keep going?" Hearing this, Jin-wook suddenly remembered something and thought to himself, the spread range of the paralyzing spore mushrooms can reach 50 meters. With that thought, he confidently declared, "Then that brat must be poisoned too. Park Sung-wook, you stay here and keep watch outside the infection zone. The rest of you follow me. Even if you play little tricks, it's useless. Maybe that brat is just bait to lure us into a trap, but they're underestimating me. Just a rookie. How dare you try to trick us?" With that, the whole team rushed off. Just as predicted, the small figure of Do-jung appeared right before their eyes. Jin-wook excitedly shouted, "Catch her, that little brat!" Forcing us to come all this way. "Not bad, little girl. Let's see where you can run to now." Seeing them, Do-jung was a bit flustered, but she quickly steadied herself and challenged them. "Bring it on. You guys are finished. Which one of you dared to point at me? Raise your hand. Which one is it, huh? Being toyed with by a kid." He screamed like a madman and signaled his group to swarm her. "Still acting arrogant, you're dead meat." Do-jung wasn't afraid at all. Instead, she was incredibly excited. Having calculated the time and space perfectly, she quickly used her technique to detonate a paralyzing spore mushroom underneath them. All creatures within 50 meters would be paralyzed for 2 hours. A few minutes earlier, Do-jung had asked out of curiosity when she saw Chae-hun urgently searching for something. "Hey, you said you were looking for something important, right? What's here besides trees?" Looking at the vines in his hand, he said calmly, "Stay calm. We're headed in the right direction. You guys noticed it too, right? This event is very favorable for melee fighters." Ina chimed in, agreeing. "Right. Just being restricted to C-rank skills and below is a huge disadvantage for those who rely on skills like mages." Chae-hun quickly followed up, "But for those with good physical stats like warriors, that disadvantage is nothing. Their low-rank skills are quite strong. Mages are only powerful if they use high-level skills." Hearing this, Do-jung yawned, bored, but couldn't help but worry, saying, "That's true, Ina is fine. Because she has a special skill, but my skills are all sealed away. At most, I only have strength-boosting charms and a few basic skills left. What are we supposed to do?" Chae-hun slowly explained, "We have to plan carefully to make full use of those basic skills. Do you know how to use swap?" She nodded eagerly. "Of course, I'm the one who taught you magic theory, remember? Forgot already." Ina chimed in excitedly, adding, "Swap is a spell that switches the positions of 2 designated targets. Do you have any idea how useful that is?" Before she could even finish, he cheered excitedly, "Done. Ash tree sap, I've got it right here. We can play some really fun games with swap." Back in reality, a loud explosion echoed from the spore mushroom restricted zone. Hearing the signal, Jae-hun immediately gave the order, "It's time," receiving the command. Ina nodded and replied, "All right now." Inside the restricted zone, the seniors were struggling desperately, trying to withstand the shockwaves from the recent blast. Chin-huk roared in frustration, "That psycho woman!" Right on cue, the system notification popped up. Active skill swap activated. Do-jung shouted in excitement, "Let's switch. Sorry, but you guys don't get to play anymore," she said. She vanished from the spore mushroom area, instantly using teleportation. A second later, Jae-hun's familiar feet appeared in the air on the screen. He had arrived. He landed firmly, planting his foot down. He stepped right onto his opponent's face with a mocking tone, "My turn." The kick was so powerful that Chin-huk was sent flying backward, blood spraying from his nose instantly. A heavy thud echoed as his body slumped to the ground. The impact was so intense it shook the surrounding mushrooms. Realizing his combat power was plummeting uncontrollably, Chin-huk desperately tried to pull himself forward, cursing, "Damn it! You think you've got us just like that? You fool, you've wandered into the paralyzing spore mushroom zone yourself. I knew you guys were up to something, so I left someone behind to keep watch outside. Once the spores clear all of you." Before he could finish, Jae-hun coldly cut off his hope, "I hate to disappoint you, but that guy isn't coming." Before being logged out of the game, Chin-Huk screamed in disbelief, "What the hell are you talking about?" Just then, bad news arrived from outside the restricted zone. The system announced that player Park Young-Huk had been eliminated. He lay sprawled on the ground, his eyes rolled back in pure horror, writhing from the excruciating pain of the stabbing. The one who cleared him out was none other than the core member of Ina's team. The system points notification chimed repeatedly. Players Min Jae-hun, Kim Do-jung, and Seo Ina have gained 100,000 points. Inside the restricted zone, Chin-Huk lay there unable to even close his eyes from the overwhelming rage. Jae-hun smirked and spoke up. "I told you, he's not coming." Chin-Huk couldn't accept the defeat. He gritted his teeth so hard his whole body shook, unable to contain his fury. Chin-Huk erupted in a fit of rage. "Just wait 2 hours. We'll definitely turn this around once the paralyzing poison wears off. Just me alone." Jae-hun let out a mocking scoff, ignoring him as he lay there screaming. "Turn it around. Do you think I'd allow that?" Watching Jae-hun stroll casually through the restricted zone, Chin-Huk was stunned into silence. "Wait, what the hell? How is he moving without being affected by the spores?" I kept muttering, "This is impossible. It's absurd." Jae-hun coldly continued, "Yeah, it is pretty absurd. Why don't you go complain to God about it?" In reality, the reason he was immune to the paralyzing mushroom poison was all thanks to the blessing he'd received. Jae-hun stepped closer, making Chin-Huk scream in terror. "Get away! Don't come any closer!" In an instant, the groaning stopped, replaced by his piercing shrieks and the pungent metallic scent of blood spreading through the air. The remaining seniors immediately fell into a panic, stepping back in fear as the system alarm sounded. Player O Chin-Huk has been eliminated. Players Min Jae-hun, Kim Do-jung, and Seo Ina have gained 100,000 points. Glancing at the group ahead, a hungry look flashed in his eyes as he remarked, "Only 3 left, huh?" I didn't wait for them to react. He finished them all off at once. At the same time, outside they received the news. Lee Soo was so shocked he couldn't even speak. "This is impossible." The first 30 minutes passed, and the rookie rankings were updated. First place Min Jae-hun. Second place Kim Do-jung. Seo Ina in 4th, An Ho-jon in 5th, Lee Soo-huk and Cha Do-kon in 7th, and Trang Ho-san. The first 30 minutes have passed, and the rookie leaderboard has been updated. Min Jae-hun is in 1st place. Kim Do-chung is 2nd. Sina is 4th. An Ho-jon is 5th. Lee Soo is 6th. Cha Do-kon is 7th, and Trang Ho-san is in 8th.